Years ago on the planet Earth, two brothers started watching Transformers media, and now they are going to make it your problem. Hi, I am Hayden.
And I'm Frankie.
And welcome to BroBots in Disguise, where we are going through and discussing every episode of every major Transformers cartoon ever.
Maybe.
Well, hopefully.
I mean, like we pointed out one time, we'll probably be dead before all the Transformer cartoons are
done. The mound
of
content just keeps expanding.
Anyway, welcome back to Season 2 of BroBots in Disguise, where we get progressively more morbid. And we are discussing...
The show, we haven't changed our intro at all.
No, not the intro words.
Intro.
Well, neither does the show, but we did change our intro music.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. We had a whole thing about that last episode.
Now.
Yeah. And yeah, as you may have guessed, we are in Season 2 of Transformers Generation 1, animated series from 1985-ish. And as previously discussed, we will largely follow the episode order of Season 2 laid out on TF Wiki with a few minor adjustments for continuity.
How could they have betrayed us by not having a firm sense of continuity? It's unbelievable.
Surely you did not enjoy that segue, did you?
No, I did. I was just trying to make it as obvious as possible. But now we've been outed by having a joke written into our intro now. How are we going to recover from this?
We've betrayed ourselves, and surely that never happens in Transformers.
Treachery never happens in Transformers.
There sure is a lot of double-crossing and immobility in... Oh, I'm sorry. Speaking of my wife... Just getting started and already cutting up. Go ahead and mute my computer. Yeah, alright.
Yeah. Where are we at?
Just go back to the...
Oh, okay, I'll just go back to the first bit.
Yeah.
How could they betray us by not having a firm sense of continuity? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, surely that never happens in Transformers. But speaking of treachery and firmness, there sure is a lot of double-crossing and immobility in this batch of episodes. One might even say the theme here is Immobile Treachery. Woo! I'm sorry, I just come up with weird explanations for the titles of these episodes.
I mean, it kind of fits.
Yeah, I mean, there is kind of a... When I was breaking this down, there is definitely a theme in this batch of episodes.
Look, we're getting to the point now where, like, the episodes are kind of more loosely connected than anything else, so...
We're grasping at straws,
we'll grab as many thematic through lines as we can.
Yeah. I mean, in today's episodes, Mirage is suspected of being a spy and traitor. Carly is suspected of being a spy, while Wheeljack invents the Immobilizer in The Immobilizer. The Transfixatron immobilizes Autobots in their vehicle mode in the Autobot Run. And Megatron teams up with Merfolk, who betray him with a gun that stuns Transformers in Atlantis Arise.
It's all coming together. It was meant to be.
Yeah, they're just, they're already reusing plot elements.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like we reuse our episode intros.
Yeah, there we go.
Our bits.
Look, we are nothing if not imitators of the franchises that we love.
I mean, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, or in these episodes, immobilization is the sincerest... I don't know, man.
Anyway, let's get into it.
Yep. At the time of these recordings, these Transformers episodes are available on Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel, as well as on DVD and several other streaming services, such as Tubi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Alright, so... First up on our docket is Traitor. Megatron steals experimental electro cells to make energon cubes and hires the Insecticons to help guard them. Cliffjumper accuses Mirage of being a traitor for not reporting the Decepticons' position accurately. Mirage tricks the Insecticons into attacking the Decepticons, but is captured and enslaved by Bombshell. He is used to lure the Autobots into a trap, but is rescued by Ratchet, and Megatron blows up the Electrocells so Optimus can't have them. There was a lot of cons and a lot of cons in that
double-crossing treachery, you might say.
Insecticons, Decepticons.
Oh, you mean in the words?
Just in the words.
Yeah. At least they're not called the Electrocon cells or something.
Electrocelicons. Or
Electrocelicons.
Transfixatron. But we'll get to that one.
Yeah. That's a different episode.
So, Electrocells are yet another human experiment that could absolutely annihilate everything on the Earth.
Yeah. I find it so funny that like all of these experimental devices that these humans come up with are always so super unstable. Like, why did they make them that way?
Yeah.
But then I thought about it. It's like, well, maybe they're just not done with them yet. You know, this is the prototype. The prototype's unstable. That's why you make a prototype, is so you can refine it and, you know, work out the problems. But Megatron's so impatient that he's got to have them now.
Yeah. I think the sign on the thing said, like, experimental energy research laboratory or something like that.
Another, you know, probably another thing that they were putting in place for, you know, our whole theory about, you know, the Insecticon horde at one time.
Oh, yeah, ravaging
devastates,
everything.
you know, periodically devastates the Earth, and that's why they're in an energy crisis all the time, and everything's always a wasteland in Transformers, and they're finally now, with the Autobots' help, recovering from that.
Yeah.
You know, so of course there's all these different, that's why there's always all these different experimental energy things, you know. It's not just part of the theme of the show that the Decepticons are trying to steal energy, but Earth is also trying to create, you know, not that we don't already have an energy crisis just all the time anyway.
It's just that it seems that every single invention seems to be to solve the world's energy crisis.
Right. Yeah.
One thing that I didn't really write down.
See, what they should do is solve the food and hunger crisis first, and then, you know, Megatron wouldn't be able to steal that as easily.
True. And
right?
also it would starve if there's...
The Insecticons eat food and convert it to energy anyway.
I was about to say, the Insecticons are like the solution to that.
We'd have a lot more Insecticon episodes.
Yeah.
Also, I think this is like the first time they've shown up in Season 2, right?
The Insecticons?
The Insecticons?
Yes,
other
I
than in
believe
the theme
so.
song?
Yeah.
And Megatron kind of refers to them, you know, like they've already been in good graces and kind of...
There seems to have been some
teamed
sort
up.
of patch job that has happened in between to where at least they're at a neutral standpoint now instead of actively hunting each other down.
Right, which furthers my theory about the Insecticons actually did save them from the lava in at the end of Season 1,
Right.
you know?
But these Electrocells
Yes.
get stolen by the Decepticons. One thing that did occur to me is that these scientists and their experiment, for some reason, made me think of a connection between them and Arkeville. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Probably because of the
unstable energy.
The unstable energy,
yeah.
but, you know,
Well, they also...
if Arkeville was just like a rogue one of these guys, then, like,
Yeah.
that would make sense.
Yeah. Maybe he used to work there, and he was developing his infinite energy egg.
His egg.
And they were like, nah, man, or somebody tried to steal his plans, so he got really suspicious of them and betrayed the energy research lab and struck out on his own. It's like what I was saying previously, is that you know, that's what makes him an evil scientist, is that he doesn't share his invention
True.
for the benefit of humanity. He only benefits himself, right?
I will admit these two are pretty courageous given the
and also,
circumstances.
once again, invincible from falling from giant heights, just like the lady in the previous episode.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even remember her name.
Lady scientist. No, hang on.
Brain blast.
You know what? I'm just gonna ask TF Wiki.
All right.
She never shows up again, so it's fine. Try to remember it before I look it up. Dr. Harding. I just remembered that before I got to the page.
Dr. Harding.
Even though I'm the one that's looking it up. Now let me confirm that that's right. Yes, Dr. Harding.
Dr. Harding.
But I don't think these guys get names, do they?
No, they do not. They get unique character designs, though, which is saying a lot, honestly.
Yeah. And they're racially diverse, too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Stupid observation. But
Maybe a little.
But I love that the playing into the car theme of Transformers, the electrocells are basically just giant car batteries with Tesla coils on them.
If Arkaville is attached to these guys, he's got much better presentation.
Yeah.
Because these are just boxes with a tiny little Tesla coil sort of thing.
And I find it funny that once again an invention, like the solar needle, it only creates one energon cube at a time.
Yeah.
Right? Well, these only create 3 energon cubes at a time.
Well, it is an advancement from that. So
Right. But
the humans are onto something.
Yeah. So it's funny when the Insecticons are complaining, only 2 measly energon cubes, and then one of them says, "I'd say that's pretty good." Yeah. I mean, they got like a 2 out of 3 cut out of that. You know? That's pretty good.
I absolutely love that exchange too. Where well, we'll get to it, but. Yeah,
let's talk about, speaking of the rate that he fills up energon cubes, let's talk about Starscream and Megatron kind of flip-flopping sides here.
So, they both are getting into a kerfuffle over whether or not to, ramp up the energy production or, experiment more with it. Mm-hmm. And Starscream is usually the one who's, really, really cautious, to an absurd degree.
Yeah.
Megatron is super reckless.
Scientist.
We've seen that in War of the Dinobots, bunch of episodes, especially Ultimate Doom.
Yeah.
Here it's completely flip-flopped to where Starscream is just reckless with testing out whether the electrocells can actually produce the amount of energon that they need.
Not to 50.
Yeah. And Megatron is these are dangerously unstable and everything.
He even blows one of them up.
Pick a side.
Starscream ramps it up and blows one of them up, and it's interesting. He chides Megatron on not being courageous enough, but usually Starscream's more cautious.
But that's the thing, is
War
that
of the Dinobots and a few other episodes from season 1.
Yeah.
And later on in season 2, we'll see that also with Dinobot Island. But in a later episode in this batch, even Starscream kind of rushes in headlong.
Yeah, and it's
once again
still
not a coward.
It's still in character for both of them because Megatron is calculating.
Yeah.
He just usually hides it. Megatron is also ridiculously brash and overconfident.
Mm-hmm.
Starscream is really good at hiding and planning and everything.
Yeah.
He also has the scientific method of, experimentation and pushing the boundaries and constantly pushing boundaries with Megatron.
Yeah.
So they're both positions that are founded in both of their characters. It's just never consistent which one shows up when.
Right. Just what do we need for this episode?
But it gave us a cool shot of them facing off.
Yeah, there's a couple of weird, a little bit of weird choreography or staging. What do you call that? When
shot composition?
No. When you tell people where to stand on a stage.
Oh yeah.
Is that staging?
It's staging.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, where it's just shots of people's backs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's what? Why did you stage this shot like that? But yeah, there's also a lot of really cool moving shots where the camera sweeps around, which is a lot harder to do in a 2D hand drawn animated thing. So it's always impressive when it shows up.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see a couple of shots that were really high quality animation.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
what the...
This episode looks really great, and there's a lot of really good action shots in it.
There's also a lot of really scuffed looking shots.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of really weird framing on some shots where it's why is this just see, okay, so an over-the-shoulder shot is an understandable thing when you're dealing with humans, but when you're dealing with Transformers who have these monstrous blocky backpacks or these things that hang off their shoulders, like wings or tires or, the half of a tank or something, you're not going to get the same effect as when it's an over the shot, whole shoulder shot, because you're not going to be able to see past these Transformers. And this shows up from episode to episode, but I just noticed it a couple times.
Well, yeah, you think about it, it's not something.
It's a good way to not have to animate lips, though.
True. But you don't think about it too much when you see it, like, on the page of, like, Optimus. We look over Optimus's shoulder or something like that.
Because Optimus has normal shoulders.
Right. You really have to take into consideration character design.
Yeah.
In that, like, say, we look over Ultra Magnus's shoulder.
His shoulder is 10 feet tall.
Yeah. And you see that a lot in, like, comics and stuff where, especially Ultra Magnus is a pretty big offender where he's got the giant smokestacks on his shoulders.
Yeah.
And anytime his arms are above 90 degrees...
Oh, yeah,
then it's like, it just looks completely off.
Yeah, what are you going to do with it? That's why so often his shoulders only move forward or his arms only swing forwards and backwards. They don't go off to the side because either you've got to make a command decision that, yes, his lower arms move separately than the giant pylons that stand on top of his shoulder, or you've got to crisscross those with his head. Yeah.
It's a curious predicament, not necessarily specific to Transformers, but very, very prevalent throughout Transformers.
Yeah. No segue whatsoever, but let's talk about this. Cliff Jumper is such an exhaust pipe in this episode.
Tastefully stated.
Yeah. I mean, he's so antagonistic to Mirage.
It's
he's
very
so
funny.
Mean. Yeah, it's borderline neurological.
It's
he
very,
just
very
has
funny
it
because
out for Mirage.
It's so clear that the episode title is Traitor.
Yeah.
And that is the crux of the episode, is that Cliff Jumper thinks Mirage is a traitor.
Yeah.
Why? We have 22 minutes in this episode.
Yeah. He just has it in for Mirage. He's just like... there's one scene, like, Optimus has a level head and is like, well, let's hear out Mirage, what's going on. But Cliff Jumper is just immediately like, well, he did it! If he would have reported it yesterday, we would have been on it by now.
Well, it's like one of the first lines that the Autobots have
what
in
if
this
they
episode.
weren't there yesterday, and stuff like that. And then he gonna murk Mirage instead of reporting that, oh yeah, here's the Decepticons, oh, the Insecticons are in on it now, but I'll tell Optimus about that after I shoot Mirage. And he just, once Mirage is on their side because of the mind control, Cliff is so vindicated, he just unloads on Mirage. He's just pounding him and beating him up, and he's gonna, like, WWE over the shoulder, break his spine, throw him off a cliff and stuff,
Now,
what is happening?
If it was any other Autobot, though, it would be entirely ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is also Cliff Jumper we're talking about. The man who conveniently carries a ginormous bazooka with him at any given point,
right?
Just in case he has a headshot lined up on Megatron.
Yeah. From More Than Meets the Eye, but also from More Than Meets the Eye, Mirage and Cliff Jumper have sort of a rapport going on in that one scene where, Mirage acknowledges, Cliff Jumper acknowledges Mirage's, pacifistic streak and says, for somebody who doesn't like to fight, you're not bad, Mirage,
Exactly.
So they've hung out before, and they've, he's acknowledged that, just because Mirage doesn't like to fight doesn't mean that he's, unwilling to, and always wants to go back to Cybertron. And then there's the whole thing about Mirage sabotaging the Nemesis, giving up his... No, I'm sorry. The Victory.
Yeah.
Giving up his whole ticket back to Cybertron.
Yeah, he literally had a chance to, he could have stayed invisible, gone all the way back to Cybertron, and just completely abandoned the war.
Right.
Chose not to.
Yeah. Well, it would have been kind of hard for him under a Decepticon-controlled Cybertron.
That is entirely fair.
I mean, I suppose he could be, switch sides, but at the same time, like, surely they'd hunt him down or something.
I think there is,
so
like...
why does Cliff, with Mirage having proved himself so much in More Than Meets the Eye, why does Cliff just go nuts on him in this
I think
episode?
there is, like, a character dynamic here that can be pulled from it.
Yeah.
Is they both have trust issues with each other. Cliffjumper doesn't trust Mirage because he's just inherently distrustful.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of founded in, like, well, you're pacifist. I've never really liked that. I've always been gung-ho. Go straight into the fight. Mm-hmm. Mirage doesn't trust Cliffjumper later in the episode. He doesn't trust any of the other Autobots to, like, go along with his harebrained scheme.
Yeah, because he really takes it into, instead of healing or instead of talking to anybody, the smart thing would have been to say, hey, here's my plan, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Optimus probably would have said, hey, no, that's too risky or something like that. But his plan works out pretty well. And
It works out pretty well until it doesn't.
Right.
But that's the thing, is that it probably would have worked out better if anyone else on his side had any sort of knowledge that was his plan. Like, if he had confided in anybody. So it's a trust issue on, like, one, not trusting somebody just based off of, like, preconceived notions. The other person not trusting based on, like, I don't want people to get close.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So then they have to kind of meet in the middle. That is gleaned, and that's kind of like the intended point of this arc.
Yeah.
It has a very hard time getting through, just due to, like, the way that the plot plays out and everything.
Right. And there is a lot of plotting in this episode.
Yes, it is very plot heavy, and I remember even, like, when I was young watching this and being very confused by a lot of stuff that just goes unsaid.
Yeah.
And plot turns that just happen without any sort of, like, setup.
Well, it's one of those episodes that it's like, it trusts you to kind of figure out what's going on.
It trusts me to read between the lines, but I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I'm not used to that in this show.
Yeah, well, in shows where you're used to the characters constantly explaining everything that goes on, and get this, apparently in the Japanese version, according to TF Wiki, I've not seen the Japanese version, the Japanese dub of Generation 1.
Right.
But apparently it has the narrator constantly tells you everything that's happening through the entire episode. Like, in the American version, you get the narrator at the beginning, just a little setup, right? Or to tell you what happened in the last episode. But apparently the narrator goes through the entire... And I kind of remember this from watching Headmasters, because I have seen the Japanese version of Headmasters.
Yeah. Haven't
watched the English dub all the way through. We'll see what happens when we get to Headmasters after G1. I do remember this in Headmasters was the oppressive narrator, just telling you what's going on all the time.
He's beating you over the head with explanation.
Yeah. Which isn't uncommon in anime aimed at younger kids, and whenever Transformers gets dubbed into Japan, it always seems to age down a little bit.
Yeah, they tend to trend younger.
Yeah. Like, they absolutely butcher Beast Wars and Prime, from what I'm told, with aging it down. But then some of theirs are, like, super dark or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, it's still kiddish, and we'll get to that when we get to the Takara trilogy.
But yeah, the fun thing is that when Mirage gets into a scuffle with, I believe it's Skywarp?
Skywarp, yes.
He pulls off a paper Decepticon
logo.
Yeah,
that thing.
Or cloth. It kind of looks
feel like
cloth.
that, the way that it works, I mean, it's supposed to be he rips off the metal and stuff, but it reminds me of Skyfire in his first episode, where he just rips off the Decepticon logo like paper and replaces it with the metallic Autobot
looks
logo.
Like an iron-on
thing. And then there's a funny zoom-in on it when... Mirage says, "I don't need rest," and then
like clutching it in his
the music
hands.
goes like da, 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 and then there's some silence, and then it just zoom in on the logo. Speaking of music, I love when Mirage leads them into a trap. The music, it fades out, it ends, right? And then all these explosions start happening, and Cliffjumper goes, "I knew it was a trap!" And the music kicks in again.
Yeah.
Different track. I just really love that edit.
Yeah, I think probably my favorite part of this episode was Mirage planting the evidence. And also the whole Decepticon logo thing. It's very clearly written from the perspective of like, well, we gotta get the Insecticons to distrust the Decepticons, sort of thing. But it's whatever. It works.
Yeah, and it literally works.
Yeah, it actually works. But Mirage plans to take that Decepticon logo, steal the Insecticons' share of the Energon, which they're already not happy with, and then pin it on the Decepticons by leaving the logo there.
Right.
It's very, very funny when he gets there and the Insecticons are kind of like grumbling about the Energon cubes.
Yeah.
I believe it's Shrapnel is very dissatisfied with it.
Yeah. Kickback
is just like, hey, I think that's pretty good.
Right. Like we said, they're getting a 2 out of 3 cut there.
Yeah. And then Bombshell, I think, is just kind of like neutral on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love that little scene of them kind of like bickering and then him carrying it out and stuff. Very fun. Fun little interactions with Bombshell and Megatron.
Yeah, I like how they just talk it out. They figure out what happened by just talking.
Most rational and reasonable out of anyone in this episode.
Yes.
Because nobody else talks it out.
Right. Everybody just, Cliffjumper is just on Mirage's case the whole episode. The Insecticons and Decepticons just start fighting each other. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna beat up these bugs. Although Megatron gets quite the insult in on Bombshell. He's like, I know this will be hard for you, but think.
Actually try thinking. But this is also where
and then Bombshell's retort where he's just like, I know you wouldn't betray us. You need us. Afterwards, you'd probably rob us blind, but not yet.
They're both, they're very much living out the muscular handshake meme.
Yes.
But
this is where we get introduced to the Cerebro Shells.
Yes, Bombshell gets a lot more fleshed out in this episode and he gets like kind of cemented as the Cerebro Shell, more of the brains of the op.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a kind of a mad scientist-ish, but that comes in later episodes.
We'll see that.
But yeah, this is the first time we see his Cerebro Shell, which is like a weird pellet that comes out of his proboscis in insect mode.
Though he can also do it in robot mode. I don't know if that's in this episode or a different one, but he can do it in robot mode.
Sometimes it's through his gun. Other times it's through his gun head.
Yeah.
Other times it's through his proboscis. It's wherever it needs to come from.
Well, in insect mode, his proboscis becomes the gun on top of his head.
Oh, okay.
I have the original toy. I can show you.
Sweet, okay.
I
always thought it was one of those details that's
just
like, it's just, he's got a gun on his head. Why? It doesn't attach to anything else in the vehicle mode. But, so these things just kind of like, they've always been kind of terrifying to me because it's kind of implied that they like burrow into someone's skull and then
they're creepy.
Mind controls them that way.
It's complete mind control too. You have no ability over your body at all.
Yes.
And then Mirage talks later like he was semi-conscious, but this isn't like the override waves that Shrapnel uses in the previous
That's like
Insecticon
nervous
episode.
control.
Yeah, where people were like talking and stuff while they were being controlled.
Yeah, they're being puppeted.
Right. It's like, oh, we can't control our steering wheels. Help, get out of the way, and stuff like that. But here, Mirage, his very speech is controlled, and he only has a dim memory of what happened while he was controlled. And it's really frightening the way that it's composed with like the music and the animation and the framing and the it's a very effective scene. The introduction of the Cerebral Shells to be very creepy.
Yeah, and
kind of terrifying.
It's accompanied with like a really disorienting, like full 360 of Mirage.
Yeah, that was one of those animation shots I was talking about.
Yeah. It's also very funny that to test out the Cerebro Shell, they just have him like fire on a fleeing Skywarp.
Yeah.
He's just like running off, and then he gets hit by Mirage's shoulder cannon, and he's just like, ah!
But we've established up to this point that Mirage isn't that good at fighting that much in this episode.
Yeah.
Because, it's supposed to be framed like, oh, is Mirage a traitor? Is he not? But it's kind of weak in that department. But he's not good at fighting Skywarp earlier. So when he's mind controlled, he's better at fighting, right?
Yes.
But I do think that, and this kind of goes back to, what we were talking about earlier, that Mirage, maybe in this episode at least, maybe Mirage just actually isn't a good fighter, and maybe that's why he turns invisible, is he's better at being a spy than a fighter.
It makes sense. He's more covert ops and
again,
stuff.
in that previous, More Than Meets the Eye, Mirage was good at fighting. Or Cliffjumper even compliments him on it. So, like, this episode works really good in isolation. But when you compare it to More Than Meets the Eye and some other stuff from Season 1, it's very confusing.
It is.
At least on the Mirage front.
It is frustratingly continuity. It has frustrating continuity, and at the same time is completely non-linear to anything else.
Again, how could they betray us like this?
Yeah.
But I do like that when he gets wounded in while he's invisible, that his invisibility turns off.
Yeah, it's an active power. It's like flexing a muscle.
Right. It's and that's kind of like a video game thing, but also like I do like that it takes concentration to be invisible.
Right.
So when you're in pain, you're not. And then when Cliffjumper realizes the truth, when Ratchet takes the cerebral shell out of Mirage, Cliffjumper visibly feels so dumb, and I'm like, yeah, good, you should.
Consequences.
Yeah.
Again, everyone except for Bombshell and Megatron are acting unreasonable in this episode.
Yeah. You know who's not acting unreasonable though? Reflector.
Because he's there.
He's there. He's taking orders.
It's a rare season 2 appearance.
Rare season 2 Reflector. Good job, boys.
Oh, yeah, speaking... I just said Megatron and Bombshell are acting reasonably, except Megatron doesn't act reasonably, because he inexplicably decides to go full Scorched Earth policy and destroy the Electro cells once it's like, the Autobots have won and they've cornered him and everything like that.
Yeah, he
even though he was the one who was super concerned about them.
Yeah, he just blows them up because he doesn't want Optimus to have them. He's just goes completely crazy at the end of this episode where he's like, oh, my Electro cells, they were mine, they were supposed to be mine,
he's like,
but he was the one that blew them up.
Again.
What happened? I mean, I get that maybe he got scrambled a little in his head when he got blown up, That happens in the Marvel comics, too. The more he gets blown up, the more scrambled his brain gets.
True. But, I'll never diss a villain acting unreasonably because they are a villain. Like, they are...
Yeah.
They're not right in the head sort of thing.
Yeah,
well, not really,
yeah.
They're not right in the head, but, like, bad people do stupid stuff.
Right.
And good people do stupid stuff. Everybody does stupid stuff. But it's just very bizarre in that it goes completely counter to what he was about at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
So,
and it's funny, speaking of the beginning of the episode, the scientists put a lot of emphasis on if they're so much as scratched, they could blow up the Earth. Well, they didn't blow up the Earth, even though they got completely destroyed.
Yeah.
But the scientists don't mind.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I guess not.
And now this episode also starts... So this kind of starts the trend of Megatron being more possessive and being more, he says, I possess them, therefore I own them. And, his worldview is getting more me-centric.
Me.
Very more... and... as we saw throughout season 1, a case could be made for him actually trying to fix Cybertron, actually caring. There's even hints that he actually somewhat cares about his troops, because he wants them to succeed.
Right.
But this episode is really kind of the beginning of his season 2 downturn to where he's all about himself, all about his own victory, what he can possess, what he can, own. We'll see in the next episode he even talks about warriors being disposable, you know, as long as he gets what he wants.
The argument could be made that a lot of season 2 winds up becoming generic and trope heavy.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not a bad thing.
Transformers has always thrived on tropes, you know. You'll have entire episodes where it's like, this is the episode where Transformers does this trope, you know, or whatever.
The Transformers do Detective Noir or Moby Dick or something like that.
Right.
They
literally did that in one of the comics.
Yeah. Great issues.
What was his name? Longtooth or something?
Longtooth.
Yeah. The whole Matrix quest was just Simon Furman riffing
a trope,
on other
round robin.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's really a decline per se. It's more of just like a different direction, and it's more Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
It's just that season 1 was way more. We got spoiled.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you know, if you want to still track Megatron's character development, I feel like this is just him like starting to, you know, because this does have precedent in season 1. It is the finale. Is he says, you know, forget you guys. I'm taking all of your powers, and it's all going to be me.
Right.
You know, I don't need you. I only need your powers. Right. That's what we talked about. The heavy metal war being a study in Optimus and Megatron's character. Right. So that's where he starts to show his true colors, and this is just follow through on that.
Yeah.
You know,
it's him
throughout season 2. His true colors just become his colors.
Yeah, you know? His ambitions slowly dwindled from galactic conquest to revitalize Cybertron to take over Earth to now just kind of regional despot.
Yeah.
But anyway, episode ends with another trope of season 2, the Seinfeld sitcom ending.
Yeah. So this is like everybody ends, or a lot of these episodes in season 2 end with everybody just kind of laughing at what happened or whatever, you know. And this is kind of the first one where we see that begin, and it's a tradition of season 2. The end of episode laughter,
wholesome wrestling also, between the two.
When Cliff and Mirage just start wrestling each other, my wife was just like, what is happening?
It feels very chaotic.
Yeah. But Cliff might be right when he says, I think there's a hole in my head, too. That could explain the whole episode.
No, I remember just watching that and just be like, that makes sense.
Yeah. Also, at one point, Ratchet refers to Autobot kind, just kind of another reference to, like, the Autobots being a separate species from Decepticons.
Later on, there's another reference to that. Yeah. But it's always curious seeing that pop up.
Yeah.
But, honestly, it's a good episode. Like, it's fine. I don't.
I like it, but when you start to dissect it the way we do, it's like, what is happening?
And again, it comes apart a little bit, but it still works.
Yeah.
So we may be being a little bit too hard on it.
Yeah, no. It's a good episode. It's a good looking episode.
Yes.
It looks fantastic. It's fun. In isolation, it works pretty well.
Fun, if not a little contrived.
Yeah. And speaking of contrived, let's take a break, and then with no segue, and we'll come back to the next episode. We'll go ahead and get started now with the Immobilizer.
Why did you say it like that?
I don't know, man. It's just a fun word.
Oh my.
Yeah. Wheeljack. Should I read the whole thing like that? Wheeljack invents a device that will stop all motion in an object. Bee and Spike meet the female human Carly, an Autobot fangirl who distracts Ironhide from guarding the experiment. Megatron gets the Immobilizer and a bath, and Ironhide gets to...
Continue.
Ironhide gets depressed. To cheer him up, Carly goes to retrieve the Immobilizer from the Decepticon base by herself, but is captured. Ironhide rescues her, and a big fight results in the device being broken.
And welcome to Jazz ASMR.
No, Beachcomber.
Oh my gosh, it is!
I'll have to get that voice back out when we get to the Beachcomber episode, Golden Lagoon. Which also remind me to talk about how Electrum is probably why Cybertron had a golden age.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway. I mean, that's basically the theory.
I mean, I was like, there's not a whole lot to this.
There's nothing.
It just turns everything gold.
Right.
Like, that's all it does.
I'll have to save that. Well, I'll say that again when we get there. But
yes.
That's basically my theory. So this episode,
I have fond memories of this one, but it's weirdly enough mainly attached to the design of the Immobilizer itself.
Really?
There's something about it, like, it's a little, like,
it has
I don't even know.
legs.
It kind of looks like a acorn with, like, a tripod legs and a little satellite on it, and it just looks very, like, retro spacey.
Yeah, it looks like a classic space probe.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
Sputnik.
I just always liked the design of the Immobilizer.
Yeah.
And
it's spunky.
The rest of the episode was kind of like a weird blur, though, so it was very interesting rewatching it. I
think Masterpiece Wheeljack comes with a Immobilizer.
Yes, and Transformers Devastation has Wheeljack's ultimate ability is using the Immobilizer.
That's right, it is!
It freezes everybody. So, very cool. Good game.
Yeah. Maybe we should do, like, when we get through Generation 1, we should do a special where we live stream playing that game.
Yeah. That'd be fun. So, Wheeljack giving the demonstration for the Immobilizer is rudely interrupted by I forgot about his whole arc of, like, you know, thinking he's Ironhide thinking he's too old for service and everything.
I like it.
It's a good arc.
Yeah.
But I forgot about it, so him immediately walking in and then just, like, laying down cover fire just cracked me up.
Yeah, it's like Cliff Jumper from season 1 when he thinks that rock is Starscream.
Yeah.
He just starts
Starscream.
No, he just says Decepticon, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, any of the Seekers.
So I put down it's a possibly senile or PTS Ironhide. Just going ham.
But what I find funny about the demonstration is that
how are we trusting Wheeljack to have a safe demonstration at
inside
this point?
next to Teletran?
Yeah.
Move him outside. That's why, you know, they go outside later.
It's like, how can we trust this? Granted, if it wasn't for Ironhide interfering, I don't think anything would have gone wrong, but
why?
These are all the recipes of disaster in one spot.
Right.
The only other missing ingredient is the Dinobots.
Yeah. But why is he using a hologram? Can it immobilize light too? Or would Hound just, like, stop the hologram? Is this just, like, a proof of concept sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's got all the parts, and, you know, they break the one part, and then, like, apparently Wheeljack just uses human-made parts from, like, the department store.
I believe he says, Spike, I need you to go to the store.
The hardware store.
The hardware store and pick up a polarizer.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. What automotive store, what Radio Shack are you going to, you
Apparently you can just get it from, like, Ace Hardware or something.
Yeah. It's so funny that, like, I mean, I guess it makes sense, you know, if he's run out of parts. And do the Autobots have, like, their own, like, purchasing card that the government gave them to spend money on things like that?
That's the curious thing about this episode is that we have a very distinct, like, I'm trying to think of the word. We have a very distinct case study of what is the state of robots in disguise.
Yes.
At this point.
Yeah, because Bumblebee's just playing... Also, we get to go to a human town with human arcade with actual people in it, so the Earth is not desolate after all.
Actually, it's not a human arcade. On the sign, it says robot, I believe it is Robot Video Arcade.
Yes.
So maybe that's the only reason why Bumblebee is able to be in his full robot form.
Is that they have robots?
Is because this is like a specially sanctioned Transformers human cross arcade.
Yeah.
What a very specific building.
with such video game classics as Oh and Pan and Robot Resource and Ha 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 and Chew and sound effects and Hot.
I love Hot.
Also, the two young blonde boys that are in just full suit and tie. It's like the Mormon.
As you do.
Is it the Mormons or the Jehovah Witness that go door to door in full suit and tie, send out little kids in suit and tie?
Mormon.
No, it's the Jehovah's
Jehovah's Witness. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're witnesses.
But
So it's you just got some Jehovah's Witness in the video game arcade.
They're looking like Patrick Bateman or something.
Or maybe they're I don't know, maybe they're like from some sort of like Toastmasters club or something.
Toastmasters.
I don't know, man.
What a poll.
But yeah, no, I think that, and because when Ravage attacks Bumblebee later on, also I like that Ravage is just kind of patrolling the city or something.
Lurking.
It gives
creeping.
him kind of, yeah. It does show that the Decepticons do go out and spy and stuff, but before that, Bumblebee gets pulled over by a cop, and at first the cop thinks Spike was driving, but he was on the wrong side of the car.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's okay, I wasn't driving, you know. And
it's
then,
weird how the issue is like, are you old enough to be driving?
Yeah. Not
Like,
that he was sitting on the
Was he old enough to be working on an oil rig?
Mm-hmm. We've established before that he doesn't have a driver's license.
Exactly.
He's not old enough to drive. I mean, this is later, so maybe he is now. But when your buddy can turn into a car, why do you need a license?
Who needs one?
Right? But once...
But what everyone in the arcade is like totally cool with Bumblebee.
Yeah.
But the cop doesn't know.
Well,
I guess not everyone needs to know.
He doesn't know that Bumblebee is the Volkswagen until he transforms. He seems okay. He's like, oh, he didn't realize that it was Bumblebee. You know, it's like that.
Oh, okay. It's
He
less of
doesn't-
the issue of, oh my gosh, giant alien robots that turn into cars. It's more of the issue of, oh, I didn't know it was Bumblebee. That's chill.
Yeah. But he does say the speeding laws apply to you too. You know, so like he's a little confused, but he's not like he hasn't not heard of the Transformer. It's like that security guard in the Antimatter episode.
Oh yeah, where it's like, I've
he's
never known an Autobot before.
Yeah. So it just goes to show that like the Autobots are pretty well known.
Yeah. I guess there's like a blanket news statement about them.
Yeah.
To where like whether or not you tuned in at that point.
I mean,
or
if
not,
the world
it's
governments
whatever.
are going to sponsor them, you know, and let them stay in that volcano and probably harvest the, like I've said before, the river that goes by them probably goes to the hydroelectric station that they go to in SOS Dinobots, and that's probably what powers the Autobot ship, you know?
Right.
So, and Wheeljack has been buying stuff from Ace Hardware, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like at this point the Autobots and the scientist previously...
they were okay with them.
Yeah,
but
they all
it's
knew-
always been like upper government levels that have been more.
But I feel like they're
them.
pretty well known, and I'm sure they would have made the news. You know, they were standing guard at the rocket base and Autobot Spike, and when the Autobots went on the rampage, I'm sure that would have been in all the news articles, you know, no matter how much they would have tried
They
to
essentially
scrub it
have,
off,
like,
you know.
superhero status.
I mean, they have
of, like, people
Autobot
know
Day
them.
in Megatron's Master Plan.
That is true.
Yeah, so I feel like at this point, they're becoming more well known and more popular.
Well, there's
right?
a
And
robot arcade.
in the next episode, we'll talk about this too. Is they do PR? You know.
That's true.
So I feel like, you know, that was probably, you know, after they recovered from the bad PR from the Attack of the Autobots episode. You know.
But this also gives us a very important character introduction. Is Carly?
Yes.
Let's talk about Carly.
Yeah. I mean, she wants an introduction to Bumblebee, and then just gets shoved out of the way by Spike.
Yeah.
But her
I love
name...
the weird little, like, triangle dynamic between them where she's more invested in getting to know the Autobots, but Spike thinks she's cute. She just kind of ignores him.
Yeah.
It's funny.
She is such a fangirl in this episode.
It's
almost annoying, but like also, wouldn't you want to go see these giant robots?
exactly.
Because
Well,
she's
it's entirely
stalking.
understandable.
After she meets Bumblebee for 5 seconds and Spike gets jealous, basically, she just follows them with her car like a stalker, and then snoops around the Autobot base and stuff. Also, her name, I think, is a pun, because car is the first part of her name.
I didn't even think about that.
But also, all the humans are Transformer puns, because Carly, car.
Yep.
Sparkplug, that's a part of a car.
Yeah.
Chip, microchip.
Spike?
Road spikes.
Sure. Transformers have been named worse.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah.
Well, the odd thing about her is that she seems normal.
Yeah.
Off the bat.
Yeah.
The episode progresses, and more gets revealed about her that makes her seem psychotic. In a very endearing way, but nonetheless, like, kind of terrifying in how capable she is, how intelligent she is. It's awesome, but at the same time, the way that she uses it is almost, like, radical.
Yeah.
Like, violent extremist radical.
It's also funny that Spike comes back and is like, we met a girl, and then Wheeljack completely ignores him.
She's like, whatever.
It's like, he doesn't care at all. But yeah, Carly is totally fangirling. Ironhide shoots a tree on her, which is so funny because she's sneaking around this area that's off limits. She says this. Ironhide says this area is off limits to civilians, and I'm wondering, is that because they're testing, or the whole Autobot volcano area is off limits to civilians?
It makes sense. It's some occasionally active volcano, and also if like they've been sponsored or anything, then you could probably just put up a bunch of signs. It's like fence line of just these guys are doing crazy stuff. Like, don't go near.
Yeah. But it really does
also
feel...
privacy.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does feel like maybe they were setting up Carly to be actually a Decepticon spy. Because, like we said, everybody's really lax around Carly. They let her come to the, first when Ironhide shows up with her, he's like, hey, Spike, look who's here,
Yeah.
And then he's just giving her a tour around the base,
For having... just come off of an episode where everyone's hyper suspicious of each other.
Yeah.
Nobody's suspicious of Carly.
Right. But it feels like she's being set up to be a spy because she's like, trying everything she can to see the Autobots, and then she asked to see a tour of the base. The first time she shows up is long enough to distract B, so that if she didn't distract B, they wouldn't have left when they did, and then he wouldn't have gotten pulled over by the cop and then gotten attacked by Ravage, maybe she told Ravage that they were going to be there or something, That's why he happened to be in that exact alleyway to peg B with the little spy
All
can.
of the seeds are there for her to be a spy.
She immediately starts stealing things from the Autobots base, like, is she gonna blow it up or something?
Yeah.
But no, and then she just knows offhand that the Decepticons have an underwater HQ,
Why would she know that?
Why would she know that? Nobody's told her that yet, right? Is that on the news too? But nah, we gotta give Spike a girlfriend. But I do like that this episode is entirely focused about Carly having a friendship with Ironhide and doesn't immediately wife her to Spike.
Yeah. Well, it's like she is a fully independent character in this one.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
But
she could be a little annoying at times. I think my wife was a little annoyed with her, but she is overall effective, smart, and brave.
Yeah.
Even if she's just completely a fangirl.
It is very funny that everyone Spike knows is immensely more capable than he is.
Yeah!
Because Chip is a genius.
Yeah.
Carly is like G.I. Joe level threat.
That's the new Avengers
And
level.
Sparkplug has a favorite wrench.
Yeah, but he fixes all the Autobots. Spike's
Yeah.
just kind of there to provide, human...
He's the human factor.
yeah.
He's the cultural touchstone.
He does level up in the movie, though.
That is true.
In
But-
season 3, he's like a straight-up diplomat from Earth in season 3. But
Well,
yeah.
The whole thing with, like, Carly being set up to be a spy, if it sounds ridiculous, it's not. Because this exact plot line was used in an episode of Transformers Prime, where they think that a newcomer to the Force is who he says he is, but he's actually a Decepticon spy who's shapeshifted into that person, and it's like going around the base asking where everything is, and he's like suspiciously knowledgeable about stuff that he shouldn't be.
Right. And suspiciously not knowledgeable of things that he should be.
Exactly.
Right? But
So it's
yeah, the
it's
seats
done,
are there.
like, way later.
The twist is that she was telling the truth the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of her being super capable, is at the end of the episode she mentions that she has a scholarship to MIT.
Yeah.
Wow. So she's old enough to drive. She probably recently graduated high school and is either going to or is already in college. And MIT is in Massachusetts. That's what the M stands for. Institute of Technology, which is on the east side. Massachusetts is on the east side of the United States. And presumably, being in the volcano that they're on the west side. The Autobots are on the west side of the United States, I think. So she is either home on break or hasn't gone to college yet. Spike, she is way out of your league, man. She just bum rushes the Decepticon base by herself. She can scuba dive, too. She knows how to scuba.
Fully trained scuba diver.
Which is a lot of training to go through.
To insane.
Because they're on the ocean floor, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to scuba dive to the ocean floor takes a lot of training, right? I mean, it's not like it's not doable in, it's like getting a pilot's license.
But putting
or
it in
something,
perspective, there's a very select few of people who are trained to dive down to oil rigs and, like, go down to the very lower levels and do repairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we will see...
Those people get paid exorbitant amount of money for a job that they do maybe twice a year.
Yeah. And we'll actually see in a few episodes later that Spike can scuba dive also. So maybe that's what he was doing on the oil rig.
Not necessarily trained to.
But he's on the ocean floor too!
Maybe he's just really hardy.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute. But man. But B is an immediate wingman. He just comes up and whispers into his ear some just gobbledygook science stuff to impress her with that Spike repeats to ask her out for chocolate soda. It's just so funny. And that last shot of the episode, why is that not a synthwave lo-fi music video?
Yeah, it's really well detailed
it's
too.
Really classic, classic anime, 80s anime looking drive off into the sunset.
Some city pop playing in the background.
And we will see Carly's car show up in a later episode.
Yes, it has a starring role in a couple episodes.
Yeah. I'm surprised no Transformer toy has ever been made of Carly's car. Like, you could so easily...
I could see, like, Chromia or something having a form like that.
But, like, you could redeco, like, Prowl and make him a convertible and make it Carly's car or something, But anyway.
We wound up getting so focused on Carly that we kind of skimmed the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
But
that was the Carly diatribe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's Ironhide's fault. He takes it so hard on himself for
it's to a
being
ridiculous
distracted.
degree.
Yeah, I don't think that it's his fault at all. He's actually doing his job. He thought she was a Decepticon spy, so he went to investigate.
The seeds were there.
Yeah. But I like how Megatron's cannon noise is so iconic that we know the Decepticons are attacking even when it's off screen.
Yeah, the sort of sound. Yeah. The whole fight in the woods is very hilarious, mainly because of Starscream getting his telemeter. His telemeter gets busted, so his whole sense of direction is off, and he's just bumping into trees as he goes, and right as Megatron has the Immobilizer, the river that got immobilized, which we should also probably talk about.
Yeah, we should probably. Yeah, let's go back to the test. The test.
So the Immobilizer it's less of like this thing.
It's not a stun gun.
It's not a stun gun. It's not a time stopper. It just removes all of like the energy and movement from an individual thing.
Yeah, but fortunately for Wheeljack, only for a certain amount of time.
Right.
It does wear off.
And it also sends it into grayscale, which is kind of cool looking.
Yeah, you know why? This is actually really cool, and I just thought of this. Because the way that we see and perceive color is light bouncing off of things, and the way it bounces off of things refracts different colors into our eyes. So if the light hitting that loses its motion and can't get to us, we wouldn't see color.
Yeah, because light is energy.
So
energy
that's actually
is motion. Motion not happening means no color.
Right. So that's actually a really cool detail to put in there.
Because it's not just like, oh yeah, it's frozen, like suspended. Mm-hmm. It's complete stasis.
Yeah. So even the light hitting it isn't coming back.
Right. It's kind of terrifying.
It is. And the whole idea, dumb Spike stepping on the remote.
Oh my gosh.
But the whole concept of the inventor being taken out by his own device and everybody else not knowing what to do is classic storytelling. Classic. Just that is a great way to set. Yeah, it's a great setup for a thing. But and I assume that the river that they test it on is the one that flows by the Autobot base.
Most likely.
Which is why I talked about it being off limits earlier. And it's just kind of funny watching Jazz and Baron test the water.
Yeah, where he like tries to hop into it. It's like, it looks normal, and then
But yeah, that sequence of like Megatron says he gets what he like. Okay, I've got the whole thing written out. It's just, my telemeter is damaged. I can't steer. And he runs into trees and stuff. Optimus is like, you're losing your warriors, Megatron. And then Megatron's like, warriors are expendable. All that matters is that I get what I deserve. And I always do in the end. And then the thing where the mobilization effect wears off on the river, they all fall in. And Trailbreaker says, you deserve that! Rust in peace, Megatron! It's just perfect comedy.
It's very good. Very well executed.
And like I was saying in the last episode, Megatron's quote about warriors are expendable and all that matters is what he gets what he deserves in the end. And it really plays into what we were talking about, his character arc going on from Heavy Metal War, and in Traitor, about just caring about him getting what he wanted at the expense of his crew people.
It's reinforcing a theme.
His crewmates. But we already talked at length about that.
Another cool thing, Skyfire's back.
Yeah, I thought, last episode I thought, that was his end for sure, but I guess I was wrong. So what did I have to do if I was wrong?
What did you have to do?
Oh, good. I get a pass because neither of us can remember.
Oh, man. Skyfire for 10 seconds.
Yeah, I counted
jet mode.
I counted it.
10 whole seconds of screen time.
Yeah, he is in there for 10 seconds. And he, once again, only in jet mode.
Just to drop off Ironhide.
Yeah, just to drop off Ironhide.
Like a soccer mom at practice.
Yeah, he doesn't even have any dialogue in this episode, poor guy.
Curiously enough, this could be, maybe he's retired from active service? Because Ironhide is trying to retire from active service. Yeah. So,
let's talk
naturally, he would be the one who would, give him a ride if Skyfire is,
also retired.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Then where else is Ironhide going to go?
Yeah.
They're both old timers.
Right.
Except Skyfire is kind of more of Captain America, man at a time.
Yeah. Literally, he's frozen in the ice.
Interesting theory. I don't think there's
any
basis on that.
What was Ironhide going to do when he retired? Is he just going to hang around the base?
Go fishing.
Yeah. Just go mope at the river.
He's going to go show random high school, college-aged girls all of the nuclear bombs at the
Autobot
HQ.
He's gonna run tours at the Autobot HQ.
And this is where we keep our ICBMs.
See, that's probably how they get. That's probably how they get their money for Wheeljack to spend at Radio Shack. Is giving tours of nuclear warheads.
But it's also so funny that when he's showing them the weaponry room, it's not like, here's our guns. Like, here's the wall of guns, like John Wick style, big ol', they're all hanging from the wall sort of thing.
Yeah.
This is literal, like, intercontinental ballistic missiles just jutting out of the wall. A whole row of them. And somewhere in the floor, there's like 2 or 3 rows on the walls and stuff, and it's like,
yeah. Presumably that's the stuff that they would shoot out of the ARC's cannons, but maybe that's where they keep all the extra missiles for people who have missiles on their shoulders, like Mirage and Wheeljack and,
That is a very good explanation, actually.
Although we saw in one episode where Wheeljack just kind of grows new missiles.
Yeah.
I think that's in Countdown to Extinction.
It's as needed.
Yeah.
A curious thing when Carly tries to... Well, also, number one, Carly storms the Decepticon HQ.
It would have been funnier if she got in and went with a laser gun and just started shooting them up and stuff. But no, she blows a hole into the HQ and then... No, not yet. She plants a bomb, gets back up, gets captured by Laserbeak, gets taken down, put in a room, and then her bomb goes off and that starts flooding that room because Soundwave seals off all the other doors so that it can't flood.
Anyone who just happens to have access to a boat and a bomb should be worried about.
Yeah.
But she gets captured and then the water starts pouring into the cell, which is very ironic. But it's very interesting that Megatron is like sadistically curious about how it's going to play out, her drowning.
Yeah, he's sick, man.
It's sick. Oh, he's a villain and everything. But it's bizarre in that most other times that any sort of like cruelty has befallen humans, it's usually like look at him run. More of like a casual disinterest than anything else.
Yeah.
This is more of like Shockwave territory of like, ooh, fascinating. Let's watch this puny fleshling die.
Right.
And I think he specifically says, this will be very interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It's because it's a girl.
I guess. Like, for all intents and purposes, we don't know if Megatron has actually interacted with any other females of Earth at all.
Right.
Besides, female Autobots, I thought they were a myth.
Yeah, I thought they were extinct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's just like, all right, back to work.
Yeah, he doesn't even wait to see
over.
what happens. He's just like, okay, show's over.
Yeah. And then, of course, she gets rescued. She should have the bends, but once again, humans are invincible in this timeline.
We should probably have a running tally of how many people should have the bends in this show.
Her hair's not even wet when she comes back.
It's amazing. She's perfect.
when Ironhide rescues her from the base. But yeah. And once again, speaking of running tallies, Starscream assumes leadership after Megatron trips.
Woo! You love to see it.
Also, Rumble operating the controls is kind of cute.
Yeah. Anytime one of the micro Transformers is like operating machinery for a regular sized Transformers, it's always really fun to watch.
Yeah. And then, I guess throw forward, not a throwback, but a throw forward to the movie. She avoided polarities!
Yeah. How did we solve that problem? Oh yeah, we inverted polarities.
Yeah. She switched the cables. But I like that Ironhide and Carly both get a part in resolving the crisis.
Yes. There's pretty solid writing on their little arc and stuff where like she's so radically for the Autobots that it kind of reinvigorates Ironhide's resolve to like keep fighting.
Yeah, because sometimes that's what you need when you're feeling down or monotonous or repetitive or whatever, is somebody to come in with uber enthusiasm to remind you that this is pretty cool what we do.
Right. Sometimes you need a psychotic G.I. Joe level global terrorist to be shown your intercontinental ballistic missiles and reinvigorate your fight for what you know is right.
Yeah, we even, in that scene when she says, somebody should take out the Decepticons and their underwater base, we see Ironhide smirk at that.
True.
It's like the start of his...
Yeah, she's got the fire...
You put Carly radicalization?
Yes. I think his sad to motivated arc works because of Carly radicalization.
Yes.
She is the fire of the Autobot cause. Kindling the old flames.
Yes. Yeah, and I think it plays into what you've said previously about humans providing that unique vision and perspective that the Autobots need.
Yeah.
In a lot of Transformers media,
they quite literally give them the reason to keep fighting.
Right. They provide this sense of wonder that the Autobots learn from and start to wonder about Earth too.
Right.
And it really sparks, like you said, a rekindling of the spirit.
Yeah. Without the humans, the Autobots fighting the Decepticons, it's just a battle of guns and blowing each other up until the end of time.
Yeah.
The humans give them perspective and actually, like, what are we doing this for?
Right.
Instead of just, well, we do it until our circuits rust out and we run out of energy. Like, that's it.
Because that's something that happens in, like, the UK comics where it's, like, I think the UK Marvel comics where they go in these huge waves of cycles where it's just, like, every time there's peace, it starts up again,
Yeah.
And
the very
that's
cycle
even,
of violence sort of thing.
And, once again, referring to Five Faces of Darkness, that's just been the whole history of Cybertron is one war after another, with golden ages in between,
Yeah. And it's specifically because they...
And that just parallels real life also,
right.
Because what has human history been but a long series of war, peace, war and peace.
Yeah. But that's like that's
Tolstoy.
why for humans specifically being the ones to be paired up with Transformers. Transformers are immortal functionally.
Yeah.
Humans aren't. So it's that's the same thing with like elves and humans and like Lord of the Rings or something like that.
Yeah. It's like all science fiction, it holds up a mirror and shifts perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the Immobilizer introduced Carly.
Yep.
Big thing.
Big player. She will show up several times throughout season 2 and a couple times in season 3 as well.
Yep.
And
the Immobilizer will not, but it has a lasting impact.
Yeah.
All in all,
I like this episode.
Yeah, and I think the Ironhide arc, like, it does work pretty well.
Yeah. I tend to like those stories where, like that episode of Cowboy Bebop where Jet thinks, he's old, but then he's got to go and find his old colleague or something like that, on the prison ship or something like that. I don't remember. This is not a Cowboy Bebop podcast, so I won't recap it in its entirety, but, that's a good episode. But I generally like episodes where, like, the old guy's, like, questioning his use and then gets new,
Yeah. We'll see that come up a good bit in Transformers, because there's always, not always, but a recurring character trope is the old-timer who's cranky and beat up, but worth his salt.
Even more so, I like characters like Cup, who are the old guy who refuses to go away.
Yes. Stays around through sheer willpower.
Anyway, speaking of staying around through sheer willpower, we'll take a break and be right back. And we're back.
So, next up is the Autobot Run. The Autobots put on a race and stunt show for charity, but the Decepticons used the Transfixatron to make the Autobots stuck in vehicle mode and drag them to a western ghost town where the Constructicons have constructed a car smasher from hell. That whole sentence, slowly descended into insanity.
It's all one sentence, too.
They are rescued by Wheeljack and Chip's anti-transfixation grenade, and break Devastator with the Transfixatron. Again, another sentence that just descends into insanity.
This was a fantastic Saturday morning cartoon episode.
I loved this episode.
I sat on the couch with cinnamon toast sticks, which I have
microwave cinnamon toast sticks.
Microwave cinnamon French toaster sticks, or whatever they're called. I don't know.
Ingots of sugar.
Yeah. Basically, just logs of bread sugar that we used to have as kids on Saturday mornings. I haven't had them in years. And this episode is so just silly, and it's one of the ACOM episodes, so it's gonna be
right
nuts.
Off the bat. Yeah.
It's gonna be nuts.
See that pudgy art style, and it's gonna be an absolute insane episode.
Not necessarily a lot of depth, but still a lot of fun.
And for those who haven't picked up on it, ACOM, they did City of Steel. We've already talked about City of Steel.
They did.
It's insane.
The core and a lot of season 3 episodes as well. They normally Transformers animated by Bandai, or no wait, Sunbow. No wait.
We'll do a clean plate for each one so that we can edit it in.
We just looked this up last episode.
Toei.
That's it. Toei.
Oh, sweet.
I think. Yeah. Namco. I don't know.
Bandai. Atari.
No, Bandai was their rival that had the other one. It's Toei. All right.
Toei.
Yeah, normally Transformers is animated by Toei, but once in a while they farm out the work to ACOM.
Okay, one thing right off the bat from this one that I didn't realize I appreciate until this episode is Transformers interacting with car culture, human car culture.
Yeah.
And that this is one of the few times that there's a couple more throughout season 2, but
yeah, like the tracks episodes.
Right. But they have a race. Yeah. They get into a destruction not a destruction derby.
One of them says, "I'll do anything but destruction derby."
Yeah. But we have on Earth, as Earthlings, such a prominent car culture.
Yeah, at least in America.
Yeah.
Other countries too, but mostly in America.
I think the Marvel comics, and to an extent the live action movie, the 2007 live action movie, they kind of get more into how do Transformers who turn into cars interact with humans' car culture.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we'll have characters kind of have a jazz effect where they just lock onto something and be yes, I'm all about this.
Yeah, or a knockout in Prime.
Right. Yeah. So it's always really cool to see them interacting with and participating in our car culture.
Yeah.
It feels kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But it doesn't show up as much as you think it would throughout different Transformers adaptations.
Yeah. It's part of it should be part of them being robots in disguise, right?
It's notable when it does show up.
Yeah. But a lot of the shows have that. Yeah. This one, they have a race. I believe in animated, there's an episode where Bumblebee gets into a race, and then Prime does it also, where Bumblebee and Knockout get into a race.
It's good setup, but it's also one that's unique to Transformers that I feel like it gets explored, but not as much as you would think.
Yeah, because a lot of shows will have, this is the race episode or whatever.
Right.
But there's that special connection because the Autobots do turn into cars.
Right.
Yeah. And a race for charity is a good idea. It's good publicity for the Autobots, especially after Attack of the Autobots. So I feel like chronologically, this episode should probably come like right after that episode.
That would make sense.
Or around it, you know.
But this is operating off of like the continuity mindset of like, well, because that last episode happened, then they would want to do this, but then the humans would like be, oh, I don't know, like that and stuff. We're not operating off of continuity.
yeah. But the Optimus mentions that not a lot has been going on recently. So either the Decepticons have been on the low down, or they've been taking a break, or there's just actually large gaps between episodes that we don't see.
It could be.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could view the Transformers as each episode is, you know, right after the next one or last one, and it's, you know, each day is an episode or something like that, depending on how much time passes.
I think it's kind of implied that there's good chunks of time in between these
episodes. I always just assume when it comes to episodic television like season 2 that there is time between episodes, you know. The best is whenever they mention things that we never get to see. You know, it's like, oh, well, it's like that one time that, you know, such and such happened. And it's like, well, that's not in any of the episodes. So it makes the world feel bigger.
Right.
I don't think they do that as much in season 2, but it's kind of neat.
And then there's like the Odd Duck episode of like Child's Play and the Gambler where
they flow right into each other.
They're literally connected.
But they're not part 1 and 2.
Right.
Yeah. You know, there is some continuity in season 2, especially, you know, as new characters show up and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's a neat mention that the Autobots have been just kind of chilling for a while.
Yeah. Also, Chip,
Chip's back.
He's back.
Something else that's kind of wild is the Wild West town, you know, and the music cues.
I got thrown for a loop when that like Wild West yeehaw music cue just kicked in super loud when it's scene setting the Decepticons in this town.
Yeah. The ghost town.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever hear that music.
I don't think
through
so.
the rest of this show.
I was super surprised by this episode also being set in a western ghost town, but they have no gunslinging.
Yeah.
Any other show would have had, you know, some part where, now the characters are going to do some gunslinging, you know?
Optimus and Megatron. Optimus is already renowned for being the best shot out of everyone in the Autobots. Come on. I mean,
I can't tell if that's a shame or if it's an incredible flex of restraint.
I'd like to think restraint just because of the direction that this whole episode goes. Because the fact that it's in a Wild West town, it feels just completely detached from the rest of the plot.
Yeah.
Like, you could have had it in a junkyard.
And why didn't they?
Seemed more appropriate.
Yeah, because the Constructicons build this terrifying looking car crusher thing, which also I think is great because what's more terrifying to a car than a car crusher?
Exactly.
That's again playing into the car culture thing.
Right.
You know, is the Autobots turn into cars. So what should they be afraid of? A car crusher.
Yeah.
You know, from hell.
It's one of those things that's like, you know, if it's a normal car crusher, I don't think they're going to be too afraid of that because they're not made out of regular metal.
Right.
But this is a Cybertronian car crusher.
Yeah.
It's got spikes and teeth and glowing orbs, and it's evil.
Interesting little thing here. The shape of it is vaguely reminiscent of the way the teeth work and stuff like that is vaguely reminiscent of the Dweller in the Depths. Could that be some sort of like subconscious inherited memory that the Constructicons have or something like that?
We've spoken a little bit about genetic memory and ideas flowing from generation to generation. I don't know if it's going to manifest in a car compactor.
it's like a subconscious. But no. Think about it. Like the car. They're trying to build this nightmare fuel car cruncher, right? You know. And what if there's like legends on Cybertron of the maybe they don't even remember it, maybe the people who built the Constructicons told them, way back, when they were on Cybertron before Secret of Omega Supreme, maybe there was legends about, oh, in the ancient days there was these creatures that, dwelt in the depths, and the dweller
the Constructicons are like, I think it looked like this.
yeah. Well, no. Like, if in the legend people described it as, having a mouth like that crunchy thing, maybe the Constructicons took inspiration from that.
Fair enough.
Maybe that's in their like Godzilla movies or something. The Cybertronian version of a Godzilla movie is the dweller in the depths or something.
Well, the weird thing was that I picked up on the trash compactor's like mouth.
Yeah.
It looked like Unicron innards.
Yeah.
Or at least the same design philosophy.
Yeah. So it could be like some sort of collective consciousness, subconscious storytelling thing that's just, kind of, you know how like when you set out to make something, you end up making something that's already existed, in some way, like the monomyth of the storytelling or whatever,
Right.
You inevitably end up making something that's either inspired by something that already exists or, whatever.
Any theory can be good.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think that one might be good.
Yeah. But back to the music, there's also the eye catch or commercial bumper has unique music in this episode too.
Don't think it shows up ever again.
Probably not.
And same
What is up with this episode?
Yeah, and then Jazz, when they're doing the race, he's like, how about some driving music? And he starts playing this like kind of synthwave tune.
Yeah.
I've never heard it in the show again after that.
I don't know. I feel like that one does come back.
It might be in some of the club sequences in like the Blaster Soundwave or Tracks episodes.
Yeah, I feel like it does come back at some point. But Transformers, while it had a lot of music made specifically for the show, it also shares a audio library with G.I. Joe. They have a lot of crossover sound effects and music cues also.
And Star Wars too.
And Star Wars, yeah. They steal a lot of stuff from Star Wars too.
Like just rip it out of the audio of the movie itself.
You're just sitting there watching an episode. And it's like, was that a TIE fighter?
Or it's like, that's a TIE fighter, and that's a blaster bolt, but with the sound of someone getting hit by it still in the audio file.
Right. Anyway.
Let's see.
Where are we at? The Transfixatron, Megatron, and Starscream are very petty about it.
I love their bickering. Like, we always talk about the bickering and stuff, but this is just like very, very plain and upfront about it, in that they're just two siblings like bullying each other.
Yeah.
And it's just very funny where he's just thinking about like leaving him as a jet.
Yeah, and Starscream's just so terrified of this prospect.
Yeah, Saturday morning cartoon. I mean, come on.
I wonder if because Megatron says he modified the Immobilizer. I wonder if maybe he took some of the design specs from the Immobilizer and used it in the designs for the Transfixatron.
Yeah, some
even though
continuity.
He says the Constructicons created it, but maybe he gave the specs to them and said, "Here, what can you do with this?"
Yeah. So while the Autobots are doing the race, and the Decepticons are making the Transfixatron, it's funny that they finish and they kick up so much dust that nobody can tell.
Yeah.
But Jazz and Mirage are at the head of the pack.
Yeah.
It makes sense, because Mirage is an F1 racer. Like, that's one of the fastest cars built. Jazz, I think he's just winning on rule of cool.
Yeah. I mean, he turns into a Porsche.
He does.
Porsche are pretty powerful.
Yeah.
My favorite part about the race is the Autobots start out in robot mode, right? And somebody stands up from the audience and goes, "Hey, where are their cars?" And I'm just like, is he stupid?
Well, the Autobots even mentioned, like, oh man, they're in for a big surprise and stuff, but it's like, God.
But, okay, so it's a race for charity, which means they had to spend money to get in, right? Which means that it had to be advertised, right? which means that they probably promoted it as the Autobots who turn into cars are going to do a race, you know? Which,
what is the line of thought of this man walking by a hardware store and then seeing a poster for this and going, it's time to go watch this. Pay money, get the seat, and then...
He's a troll! That's what he is, he's a troll!
Sure.
Yeah, no. And then, as my wife pointed out, there's no reaction shot of the audience going, wow, they turned into cars! It just cuts right to the race.
Yeah, everyone's just like, yeah, they're cars. We know this.
Oh my goodness.
They are not in disguise.
But we have a few interesting things about... Megatron calls the robot mode for Starscream his root mode.
Interesting.
So I think that is a much better term than robot mode, because there are so many Transformers like, you know, Ravage and Laserbeak and Skylynx who don't turn into a humanoid. They turn into some sort of animal and then into a vehicle or a cassette or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's a much better term than robot mode is root mode.
And that's a novel concept that doesn't get really addressed at all, is like characters like Ravage.
Yeah.
Where, and Skylynx especially, whenever he gets introduced, is that he is a bestial form, but he has the full personality and faculties of a humanoid transformer. It's not rare, and it doesn't ever get addressed.
Yeah.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
But root mode really works for that, in that that is their normal form.
Yeah.
When they're not in a vehicular or transport-related form.
Yeah. And once again, as we learn in Five Faces of Darkness, I referenced that episode too much.
It's foundational.
The Transformers didn't always have the ability to transform. That was something that they developed over time. Right? So it makes sense for them to have a root mode and then an alternate mode. Yeah. Plus, the one that they spend more time in is probably their root mode. And then also Devastator mentions his transformation identity. So I think that's interesting that they're two different... that's part of the transformation process, is having a transformation identity. Is selecting, you know, here's your car, here's your robot, the robot's the root mode, the car is an transformation identity.
So Devastator is a transformation of all 6 of the Constructicons.
Right.
He is technically an alternate mode.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because he's a combination. Well, all of them have to turn into a third alternate mode to be a limb.
Exactly.
Or a body part or whatever. So did Wheeljack, tamper with the Transfixatron to make it disassemble Devastator? Or will it always, if you're in your root mode, will it make you transform into your alternate mode and then be stuck like that? Because I think they turn all into their...
they all turn into their
vehicle modes, right?
modes when they collapse.
Yeah. So, I wonder if that's why Devastator fell apart into vehicle form, is because the Transfixatron always transfixes you into vehicle mode.
Yeah, that was what I thought at first, was that it just transfixes you in the mode that you're in currently.
Yeah.
But it seems to just be into your alternate mode, whatever that may be.
Yeah. I think that might be something that they realized in this instance, instead of what Megatron explained it as doing earlier in the episode, because he really made it sound like it transfixes you in the mode that you're currently in.
Yeah.
Because he has Starscream turn into vehicle mode.
One fun thing that I really, really love about this episode is Megatron, after transfixing the Autobots to clear out all of the humans from the stadium, inexplicably pulls out laser vision eyes.
Yeah.
Which aren't unusual. It's just very funny to see.
Yeah. Optimus has laser vision in a previous episode, so why not Megatron?
Yeah.
But the animation on it does seem like super slow motion.
It's like...
laser vision. And then his swagger walk after that is really fun.
Oh, yeah. But it is cool seeing that, the Autobots, especially in the later half of the episode, they are able to, kind of use their vehicle modes in more inventive ways than you would think.
Yeah. Once again, because they've been influenced by human car culture.
Right. That gives them the edge.
Yeah.
I don't think the Decepticons would be in the same position.
Yeah, because they still, like, Hound projects a hologram a really long way, but that's pretty clever for...
He projects it like a wizard. Like, it just manifests in the arc, and I was very confused.
It's like... Yeah, that is a total D&D move right there.
Yes.
It's like, hey, can I use, cast Minor Illusion to tell them where we are or something?
Right.
I don't think Minor Illusion works that way. You can tell how much I play D&D. But, casting...
The thought is there.
Casting a hologram to tell them where they are because their radios are broken, that is clever, but man, has he got some range.
Oh, yeah, they, when they're about to test the trash compactor and show... the Autobots, like, this is a fate that you're gonna have. He says, bring out the Decepticon body shell.
Yeah.
And it's like a rocket, but it's just a rocket. Like, it kind of looks more like something that would be on a jet.
Yeah.
It vaguely looks like the color scheme that Octane has in Season 3. Is this a dead body? Is this a sparkless chassis? Or a laser core-less chassis.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's compacted now.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. It's dead.
It's dead now. Don't worry about it.
It's dead now. Well, my theory is that it's spare parts. Like, you know how we saw in that one episode they're
munching jets.
They're munching jets for lunch.
Right.
And then, like, Sparkplug builds Autobot X out of the Autobot spare parts, so why wouldn't the Decepticons have spare parts? Right?
Yeah.
You could build a Decepticon X. Maybe Dr. Archivist could build a Decepticon X.
That was the next plan.
You're right. You go from mind-controlling vast hordes of humans to Decepticon X.
Yeah. Okay, one thing that I do actually kind of want to look this up on TF Wiki, but
yes.
Red Cross Wings guy.
Yes. This is something I like about ACOM episodes is we get a lot of weird generic characters that just show up for a second and then disappear forever.
Yeah.
But on the Teletrans screen where it's analyzing what happened and telling Wheeljack that apparently Wheeljack phrases it like the only thing that can prevent transformation is some sort of transfixation ray. But I think what he means is that the only thing that can prevent it from a distance like that is a transfixation ray. Because we've seen, Kickback kicks Skyfire and shorts out his transform circuits. So it's possible, and in later episodes we'll see various other reasons why they can't, their transformation circuits or TCOGs can't, aren't working or whatever, all sorts of ways that can prevent transformation. But at a distance, some kind of transfixation ray. But while they're analyzing the data, it shows what I presume is Carly's car, something that looks like the evil trash compactor from hell,
Makes
and
sense.
This yellow dude with a gray Optimus Prime head and Red Cross, the British flag on his wings.
Right. He has Prowl and Blue Streak, door wings.
Right.
Sort of thing. A yellow body that looks like an extended, Bumblebee body.
Yeah.
Ish.
But kind
but
of
not
like
really.
Prowl's chest.
But
sort
Prowl's
of, but
chest
not
design.
Really, not really.
Optimus Vagish head,
Yeah. What's that one guy Thunder Prime or something? No, not Thunder Prime. What's his name? He's from G2, but he looks like Optimus, but he's not Optimus.
So yeah, it's just a extremely bizarre thing to catch right off of the bat, where it never shows up again.
Right.
TF Wiki doesn't have much on it other than describing the how he looks, but that's about it.
Right. Yeah. But that's something I like about the ACOM episodes is you never know what you're going to get.
True.
And, you got all these weird background characters that, it just helps to flesh out and show that there are other Transformers, like the generics in Transformers Armada, where they just redeco G1 characters and say, yeah, these are expendable crewmen. But it does help to show that there's more.
Right.
They're out there. There are more Cybertronians out there than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Anything else to... Oh, this battle is Ravage versus Chip number 2.
Yeah.
Last time he got yeeted out of a window. And this time he gets pounced on again, but he chucks that grenade.
I think in the end, it's Chip 2, Ravage 0.
Yeah.
Because Chip always wins in the end.
Yeah. In the long run. He plays the long run. Also, Brawn starts his mean streak that we see much more so in Microbots, when he's really mean to Perceptor for no reason.
Yeah.
But he's kind of mean to...
he goes from cool 80s action hero to bully a little bit in season 2.
It's kind of sad, but, like, what are you going to do?
You either live long enough to be the bully that beats up nerds in the arc, or see yourself become the 80s action hero of your dreams.
I think what you're trying to say is you either die from a shot in the shoulder or live long enough to see yourself become a bully to nerds.
And we all know what happens.
Both!
Both!
But we'll get to that episode later.
We've made these predictions before and have been wrong about them, but this might be the last time that we see Roller!
Oh, yeah. Roller is in this episode again.
And features very prominently.
Yeah. What a trooper.
Yeah.
He's a real Autobot.
He's a real trooper. That we will never see again.
So this episode... Yeah, and then this episode has another laughing end,
Yeah, everyone's just kind of laughing it off.
Yeah.
It wraps up very quickly, and, it's a nice little 22-minute package of Saturday morning goodness.
Yeah. It's enjoyable, but not that deep.
Yeah.
Although pretty wacky. And
Also, why make the transfixation device a grenade? Like, not just a grenade, but like a World War I grenade.
World War II grape shot grenade.
Yeah. I mean, it did work, but whatever. Fun episode.
Anyway.
Good time.
Yeah. And with that, we'll take another break and be back after these short messages. Is it my turn or your turn?
Your turn.
Okay. Atlantis, arise!
One of you with an exclamation mark.
Yeah. So I gotta read the whole thing with exclamation marks. Megatron teams up with King Nurgle and the Sub-Atlanticans, an aquatic humanoid species, and raises the city to conquer Washington, D.C. with a shield! Wheeljack is captured and used to make a stun gun, but Bumblebee and Spike rescue him. The Autobots are beaten inside the shield by the combined forces of villains, but are rescued by the Dinobots, who force the Decepticons and Sub-Atlanticans back to the now floating city, where Nurgle blows it up and sinks it again.
Nice.
Exclamation! Buzzsaw!
Buzzsaw!
Buzzsaw makes an appearance. I wrote it with an exclamation.
Buzzsaw!
Also,
it's rare. It's rare.
Is the narrator in the travel log that Megs is watching?
That would be funny if Soundwave just makes travelogue documentaries in his spare time with Buzzsaw and...
Because the narrator
That's what Buzzsaw is. He's got a little camera in his head and he's just making a documentary.
Yeah, that's why he's not around that much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This episode, I always remembered.
Yeah.
I forgot it was as good as it is.
Every single time, I always look at it and I say, that's the one with the fish
that's the
people.
fish people.
That's the fish people one, And every time I watch it, I'm like, it's so good!
Yeah. So
I think this one might be my favorite out of the batch of episodes with this time.
Honestly, mine too.
Mostly because of Grimlock.
That's fair. He kind of makes everything better.
But yeah, I think this is
big thing just casually right off the bat.
Yeah.
they
What?
discover Atlantis, or at least a sub-aquatic civilization.
Okay, I don't think it is Atlantis.
That is good thing to address, like, right off the bat. Is it Atlantis, or is it not Atlantis?
Well, Wheeljack says... He implies that it's not Atlantis when at the end it sinks back into the ocean. He says that Subatlantica joins Atlantis in myth. In the realm of myth again.
Yeah.
Or something like that, right? So I don't think it is Atlantis. Plus, Subatlantica may refer to it being a suburb of Atlantis. Or it could be a...
subaquatic
it's
Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, it's underneath Atlantis.
Right.
Now, I think this is the first appearance of a third species. They're not human, they're not Transformer, right?
Yeah.
They...
If they are human, they're extremely mutated human.
Yeah, that's another question I have, is are they humans that learn to live underwater and adapted to being fish people, or are they a separate species? Are they native to Earth? Are they from space? What is the deal with these guys?
Yeah, and they don't really get into origins at all, other than we have to live underwater because the energy that we use to power all of our stuff is only underwater.
Yeah, they talk about, like, they used to be above land, but now they're underwater to harvest the energy, and they've been trapped there either because they were forced there or because they can only survive off of that type of energy.
Right, and they are, like, when they come up on land, they have, like, masks with water buckets and stuff on their heads.
And he says that Atlantis will arise again. Have they risen it?
Have they done this before?
Have they done this before? Have they invaded the surface before and been chased back, or are they just? Is he just referring to it's going to rise again after being trapped down here for so long since when we first sunk it to get to this energy?
Yeah.
And what is the energy? It's just some sort of burning thing coming from the crevices?
I've always assumed it was like molten earth core energy, like
okay.
volcanic, volcanic sort of energy.
Yeah.
Because we've already, not yet, but
maybe it's another green crystal.
We've seen people like try to draw energy. Yeah, we've seen the Autobots and Decepticons try to draw energy from the core of the planet.
Right, and we'll see it again in the episode The Core.
Right. So it does feature prominently, but
yeah.
It's just so fascinating that they get introduced with very little fanfare, and they don't really put a lot of effort into explaining them at all.
Right.
In kind of a cool way. And it's like they're very mysterious, and they just are.
Yeah. It's something that you can't it's like Tom Bombadil, you know? If you over-explained it, it would take some of the mystery out of the world, right?
But they have, and especially
but we
the
can
fact that
theorize it all.
There we go.
Over
all the live long day.
Know? Yeah, but it must be some sort of specific energy, and they clearly aren't advanced enough to harvest it efficiently, because what the Decepticons bring to the table is energon cubes, which is
that's what I love about
energy
like
condensation.
The Decepticons find them and then immediately go to subjugate them or whatever they find there.
Right.
And it's super cool to see a humanoid faction just completely disable Decepticons.
Yeah.
Who are close to it.
Yeah.
Like they kind of come to a standstill a little bit.
Right.
But which also leads to them teaming up, which is, it's very cool seeing villainous team-ups.
Yeah.
But I like that it's the fusion of their, specialities that makes them a deadly combo, is that the Subatlanticans, they have a surplus of energy.
Yeah.
Just raw energy.
Yeah.
But they have horrible apparatus to, process it and use it.
Yeah, they got, little fingers on cranes.
Yeah, it's like a little drill that, kind of sucks it in. And
yeah, it's weird.
It's, and also they're, underwater.
Yeah.
The Decepticons have energon cubes, which are apparently more advanced than we give them credit for, in that they are, one of the most efficient energy storage methods.
Because you don't have to, like, it's the ultimate battery. You don't have to have something constantly moving. You don't have to, you can basically just plug anything into it,
It's energy in its purest form.
Right.
So take that surplus of energy that the Sub-Atlanticans have, and a surplus of energy storage and transport and application that the Decepticons have.
Yeah.
But the Decepticons don't have any energy.
Right.
They're always on the hunt for it.
Right.
So it's the perfect combination.
Yeah. And I really like that they parallel each other too, because they're both underwater bases,
Yeah.
So in a way they're like that classic sea monster, Godzilla,
Cthulhu.
Yeah. These fish people are definitely Lovecraftian in that
There's
way.
a mythic undertone to it.
Yeah, that's totally something that would be in that
Deep
sort of
ocean bad.
Yeah, deep ocean bad, not white people. Oh no! Definitely fits in the Lovecraft thing.
Yeah.
They're green and scaly. I can't trust them. And they're going to invade Washington D.C., which is on the East Coast, which is where Lovecraft was. I'm sorry.
Might need to cut that one out.
Yeah. But Megatron and Nurgle are kind of cute together. They immediately plot against each other. And I love the scene where after they've captured Washington, their subordinates immediately start complaining about the other side.
It's
just
classic
cuts from one to
villains
the other.
teaming up is that they never get along.
Right.
Nurgle himself is... villains have staying power because they have presentation.
Yes.
That's just the Megamind taught us that.
Yeah.
But that's why we remember Dr. Arkeville.
Right.
Because he's evil. He's got a big skull hat with Viking horns and a robot arm, and he's an evil scientist, and he's like, "Ah!"
Yeah.
And he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
Nurgle has a tremendous baritone.
Yeah.
Deep voice. Like an kind of retro sci-fi. All of the Sub-Atlanticans have this, like, retro 50s kind of Flash Gordon-esque outfit, but it's really intricately detailed with, like, technological circuitry and everything. And
this is back to being a Bandai episode.
Yeah, you can tell.
No, I'm sorry, I keep saying Bandai. It's Toei.
Toei.
This is back to being a Toei episode.
Animation studio confusion.
I'm sorry about that.
But it's, he's got the deep, rich baritone. He's kind of big and imposing.
Yeah.
He got that sumo wrestler sort of physique.
Yeah.
He's cunning. He's backstabbing.
Yeah.
But he's also, like, really, really, like, plays his cards close to the chest. He always keeps the winning hand to himself. And by the end of the episode, he's kind of psychotic and like a maniac.
Yeah. He goes through like a
scorched earth policy.
Right.
And this dude's amazing.
Yeah. Another thing is their the communication. Their communication, the way they communicate, it makes sense that they would develop telepathy powers. Since, underwater, it would be very hard to hear people.
Right. I was curious, though, is it an apparatus or is it a natural ability?
I think it's a natural ability.
Because it always seems to centralize from Nurgle's crown, but it is around his, like, forehead area-ish.
Yeah, but other Sub-Atlanticans are shown to be doing it, and it's coming from their foreheads. I can't remember if they're wearing...
But most of them are wearing helmets.
Yeah, true. But I think that... Soundwave specifically says that they're using telepathic means of communication, which typically...
But that's telepathic means of communication.
Yeah.
Not necessarily they're using their brains.
Typically, I think of that as being an organic thing, though.
Yeah. Which is why it would line up if it's part of an apparatus, because most of their technology is like, they use technology more often than not.
And it seems to be a general area telepathic, because if it was technology, then it would just be radio waves into the next person's brain. Which also, it would have to read their brainwaves anyway, so their brainwaves would probably have to be pretty strong. So why not just brainwave telepathy, And it's sort of a general area because you see that it spirals out and anybody in the
it's
area
like,
can hear it. You know, it's not directly into one person's brain,
right?
Though, you know,
and they are able to be selective with it. Because he like scrambles the signal. He doesn't say that he starts speaking in his native language or something.
Yeah. Which might be what he's doing, but
right.
Yeah, that's a point for it being technology though, is that he scrambles the signal.
And it also
because it sounds like when you play a cassette really fast.
Right. I thought it was really funny that Nurgle sounds like, super deep voice.
Yeah.
But then when he speaks normally, it's like...
Yeah.
But that whole, like, is it technology or is it a natural ability, kind of solves a hiccup that I thought could be there of, if it is natural telepathy, how are they able to do it with Cybertronian brain makeup?
Yeah, that work
and communicate with them?
Yeah, computer chips and stuff.
Right.
But, I mean...
If it's a technology, then,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But, like, the laser core or something, maybe, I mean...
True.
Because they are sentient beings, as...
Beings.
As pointed out. So, that's the sort of disconnect, that's the whole, like... philosophical thing is like, am I just my brain making chemical and electronic choices, or am I a spirit?
Right.
Do I have a soul, sort of thing? Which I believe in the soul.
Cybertronians.
But like, are Cybertronians? Are they just computer chips, or do they have a spark?
Right.
I think that's why so much Transformers media leans towards the idea of a spark, is to make them more human.
Yeah.
And mystic.
Yeah, we won't really get into the spiritual implications of what is a Transformer's life.
Yeah.
Until
that'll be
way later, but
that will be a big diatribe, I think, is the spirituality of Transformers.
Yeah.
How mystical
it
can
more
be.
prominent than you'd think.
Yeah, you would think that for, a sci-fi series that about robots, that it would be very cold and scientific, but Transformers gets very mystical, spiritual.
All of the
they
above.
have a god.
Yeah.
in some, I mean, not in this one, but that exists like in a physical form all the time.
Right.
They could go paint a mustache on him in the Marvel comics. Yeah. He's just, his head is in a tunnel somewhere.
It could go paint a mustache on it. I mean, it could, yeah.
Like, it's just, it's very interesting for a sci-fi.
It's like Ransack and Crumple Zone with the giant Sharpie on the wall.
Yeah.
It's like running out of the room.
Yeah, I mean, Transformers really gets the best of both worlds when it comes to sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah.
But
you can cherry pick anything you want.
Right, and that's why it works so well with tropes.
Exactly.
But anyway,
speaking of tropes, football.
Yeah, I love this. The Autobots are playing football against the Dinobots, and somehow not being completely floored by them. Be as strong to hold back Grimlock.
Hold back Grimlock.
Yeah, by just pushing on his leg.
I think this whole episode, by the end of it, becomes an appreciation of the Dinobots and like how far they've come.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah.
Because they're really fitting in with the Autobots in this episode.
Yeah, this is one of the few times that we actually see the Dinobots interacting with... I think the first time that we see them interacting with human culture.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it makes sense that the Dinobots would be naturally inclined to football. Because it's super physical and aggressive. So.
I love that Hound says, "Are you sure humans do this for fun?"
Yeah. It's great.
Speaking of Hound,
also Spike has his own football uniform.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing. Did he just get that for this episode, or is he on the football team?
Well, if he's still young enough to...
He might be in high school and on the football team.
But he's on an oil rig.
Before he went on the oil rig.
Oh, okay.
Just gave up his life for Transformers. For Robot Jesus.
My goodness. But yeah, them playing together, it kind of signals that the Dinobots, one, they've been more accepted. We've already kind of been over that.
Yeah.
They've been more accepted as, like, you're not gonna blow us up.
Yeah.
But this is them actually, like, being accepted in, like, you know, they're not just staying in their cave.
Right.
And more often than not, we see it where they just have, like, yeah, we're just gonna stay in a cave. We're not gonna interact with anybody. We're gonna do Dinobot things. What are Dinobot things? Probably, like, picking up a bone and gnawing on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is them actually, like, getting out. And, you know, even if they've had a bunch of things, like bad prejudices and being held back in some ways by the Autobots, it is a two-way street. They do have to be receptive to being accepted.
Right.
Even if the Autobots are super accepting of them, if the Dinobots don't, like, reciprocate that, then it's no good.
This is the first episode in season 2 with the Dinobots in it, right?
I think so.
I think it is.
At least according to this viewing order.
Yeah. It depends on it depends on when you want to watch what episode.
You might have watched Dinobot Islands.
But yeah, with that information, for years that's what we did.
Right.
With that information, I do like this being here so early in season 2 because it does, as you're saying, it completes their story arc from season 1.
Yes.
You know, they're finally integrating into the Autobots and just kind of hanging out.
Right.
They got really good dialogue in this episode.
Yeah.
Mostly Grimlock, but you know. Yeah. I find it funny that Hound is a convertible, and we touched on this previously, but Spike is
Hound's the open air Jeep is a convertible.
Yeah. And then he but the water skis return in this episode.
Yeah.
And they go down to the bottom of the ocean, somewhere in the Atlantic, I presume.
Check things out.
And Spike is just in Speedos on the sea floor.
You know?
And talking despite having a thing in his mouth.
He's built different.
But it's really scary seeing the whole city move across the waves.
This
and
is
shoot
kind
at
of
them.
an Ultimate Doom visual.
Yeah.
Of this terrifying, like, spired mega city structure, shielded with some kind of energy field, shooting at the Autobots. There's a shot as they're getting close to, which also, this is like the another time that the main action takes place in an actual named city, Washington, D.C.
Yeah. This is the second named real world city
Yeah.
gone to.
But seeing that, like, giant spired, like, this is an island.
Yeah.
Like a massive island moving through the water with this huge dome around it. There's a shot with the Decepticons.
They just park it in the bay.
Like, yeah, they just park it in Washington. And there's a scene, an image of Megatron and the Decepticons, like, all posed on the ramparts. There's, like, sub-Atlanticans in the background.
Yeah.
The city is, like, hyper detailed.
Yeah.
And it looks terrifying.
Yeah, it's a fantastic image.
Yeah.
And then watching it sail away while Bumblebee's calculating where it's going is like, oh dang, what's going on? You know?
Like, that thing's gonna destroy anything that it gets
in
close
its
to.
way. Yeah. And then also knowing that Wheeljack has been captured and is stuck inside it. Too,
right.
You know? Yeah, it's pretty terrifying. But this is probably the episode where Dark of the Moon got the scene where Megatron takes down Abraham Lincoln and sits in his chair.
Yeah.
But it's even better in this because he just gently picks up the Abraham Lincoln statue,
scoops him up,
and then just gently sets him to the side.
Yeah.
And then sits in the chair. And
as if Abraham Lincoln was carved entirely separate from the chair.
Yeah. And then he's just so pleased with himself sitting in that chair too.
I love the difference in the two. It really shows in presentation is that Season 2, Generation 1, Megatron gently scoops him up and sets him to the side and then sits down. Bayverse Megatron blows his head off and kicks away the remains to sit in the throne.
Yep. Also, this is a pretty neat way to take the city, is to scare everybody out and then put a dome of invulnerability over the top of the city.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
but where is the military? They would be all over trying to take back
and
DC,
we can't even
right?
use an excuse of, like, well, we haven't really seen a military response. No, we have. multiple times.
Well, partially, but like most of the time they're either like, oh yeah, we'll bring in the military, and then they don't do anything, or they just don't ever show up. You know?
Yeah.
Where is G.I. Joe?
Right.
G.I. Joe should have been the fourth faction that teams up. I guess the fourth faction in here is the Dinobots.
Yeah.
I like the belts that open the door in the Dome of Invulnerability.
Yeah.
And then this is something that I love in Transformers, and anytime it shows up in any other fiction also, is when the Dinobots break the shield.
Yes.
It shatters like glass.
You always see it as like
I think that is
shield.
so cool.
Right.
Because like, you know, most of the time you see it like Star Wars Phantom Menace, the energy shield goes up, they blow up the generator, the shield goes down. Right? You know, it just kind of fades away or whatever, right? But here, where it's an actual physical object that's being reinforced with like an energy shield or whatever, you know, but that it creates this glass dome,
it's like a
and
hard
they
light
shatter
structure.
it. We'll see this again in other Transformer episodes, but I really think that's a cool visual.
Yeah, and it especially like adds so much impact to when it actually does shatter. Like
yeah.
There's a physical impact.
It's not just
to it.
them ripping through the shield. Another cool thing, I mean, well, you could do a really cool ripping through the shield like Evangelion does with their AT fields.
Right.
Where they either rip through the shield. I think they had a shield shatter in one of the episodes, or maybe it was one of the movies.
But the AT fields are usually like, it's like a thick cloth more than anything else.
The AT field in Evangelion's like this octagonal hexagon thing that like spreads out around or in front of them.
We do get a magnetic dysfunction ray, which seems way more effective than it should be, but it actually makes sense. Like magnetism would scramble circuitry.
Yeah, I was wondering if this is based on Wheeljack's "You're on a heap of shells," because Nergil captures Wheeljack and studies him to make this weapon, right?
Yeah.
And it's more effective against Autobots than Decepticons because he studied an Autobot, right?
Right.
You know, it makes sense.
And also Decepticons have been stated to be hardier than Autobots and everything.
Right, because they're bigger and tougher and military vehicles and whatnot.
But it's cool that we actually see that in action when Starscream and Wheeljack get hit with it.
Yeah.
And that Starscream is up and recovered way faster than Wheeljack is.
Yeah.
Like he's actually like crawling away,
it's
sort of thing.
Yeah, it's almost like he got... This kind of parallels like... basically he made like a null ray, because like...
Right.
Sometimes the null ray just slows people down, like Optimus in when Megatron uses it on him in Heavy Metal War, but sometimes it completely freezes them, like Gears and Changing Gears.
Right. It is also grand that Starscream... Yeah, nobody sniffs out a traitor faster than a traitor.
Yeah. I like that.
That he's
that's
immediately suspicious and never loses any of that suspicion.
Right. Another neat thing that I like is I like when the warning comes too late. It's very eerie because the Autobots are already all stunned by the time that Wheeljack gets his message to Optimus about like beware, Nergil has a special weapon.
Yeah,
right?
It's a good narrative device.
Yeah. I like Kite Thundercracker.
Yes.
That's funny. But how did Starscream get out anyway? Did he just naturally recover? Because Bumblebee knocks him over when they rescue Wheeljack.
I imagine he's kind of like shaking it off. Because the more he's moving, the more... Like, he's kind of crawling a little bit at first. And then he kind of gets up and stumbles. So I think it's like it wears off over time.
Yeah. And then he calls Nergil an enemy, but they all still work together because they're all scared together of the Dinobots.
Yeah.
But I do like that Megs actually does bring it up to Nergil after they get back to the base. He's like, all right, now, what is this that Starscream's accusing you of?
And he's like, we'll have to wait.
Yeah. Oh, we should deal with this other thing first, you know? But it's funny that they fix us the stone monument, the Washington monument, by just
the Autobots,
flame breath.
I do love, like, there's the main action of invading Washington and, you know, the magnetic dysfunction ray, and then the treachery is kind of revealed. Yeah. And Sub-Atlantica kind of retreats as the Dinobots move in, break through the shield, and save the day. There's like this little breathing room where I kind of feel like some time does pass, like it's sunset when the end of the episode happens.
Yeah.
But there's like a little bit of a there's like a halftime break where they take time to repair the Washington Monument that nearly gets
and folded over. Put Lincoln back in his chair. Yeah.
And it also feels the same wave on the Decepticon side where they're like kind of regrouping and like, okay, what happened back there?
Yeah. I do like that they had a little respite. This is one of those episodes that I talk about when I say that Transformers sometimes has really good pacing and really good plot structure.
Yes.
Because there is a lot that happens in this episode, but it doesn't feel overlong and it doesn't feel rushed either.
Right.
Because that's really important. There's some episodes where a lot happens, it feels very rushed, and or nothing happens and it feels very rushed.
Yeah.
Or a lot happens and it feels like it takes a long time. This episode is really good at pacing and structure.
Yes.
And another thing that it's really good at is Grimlock.
Yes.
Grimlock is the bomb in this episode. There's an outdated slang for you. But the fight between...
he's effectively a bomb. Like...
Yeah. The fight between Megatron and Grimlock is so good.
Well, this is one of the first times that they've
just
interacted.
Throwing shade at each other. It is, isn't it?
Like, since Megatron deceived him and the Dinobots.
Yeah.
In
Since
War
bad
of the Dinobots.
Megatron.
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
He's out for blood.
Yeah. And Grim is very cocky, and I love to see him being both a team player and knowing he's the toughest.
So, yeah, this is like prime Dinobots. They've sorted out everything with the Autobots.
Yeah.
They know who their enemy is.
Yeah.
This is them at their most effective.
Yeah.
They turn the tide of the battle.
Yeah.
They call out every single weakness and insecurity that Megatron has. He's
got so much banter with him.
He throws a few jabs at Optimus too.
Yeah, a few friendly jabs. He's just like, oh, here I am to save your butt again.
Yeah, and it's literally him coming in and pushing the Washington Monument and helping Optimus restore this piece of human culture.
Yeah.
It's a weirdly rich symbolism that goes into that whole Optimus can't hold up this crumbling structure by himself.
He can't do it himself.
So Grimlock comes in and helps him do it.
Yeah.
It just works, man.
Yeah, because it's the it is really the culmination of their story arc from, season 1,
right? It's that Optimus...
I love that shot of Optimus holding it up, and Grimlock's just like, oh man,
he's gonna stand into the side, hands on his hips.
I guess I'll have to help you with this too. It's really good.
Yeah, and then the Autobots' second raid
good
on
jabs in at Megatron,
right?
And then him, he feels a lot more intelligent in this episode.
Yes, way more assured of himself.
Yeah.
Less insecure about where he stands on everything.
He's being a good leader for his team, and he's really helping the Autobots and everything. Yeah.
He's got healthy confidence.
Yeah.
But there's a great scene where they do the second raid on Sub-Atlantica.
The second battle.
And Optimus pulls up with his trailer.
Yeah.
And the Dinobots are in the trailer. I don't know how.
On the water skis, yeah.
But seeing them come out and they're just wreaking havoc on everything. There's a single shot where Grimlock is in a Godzilla pose and he's plowing through spires.
Yeah.
And it's great seeing him be able to, just go dino.
Act prehistoric, as Optimus puts it.
Right.
And then he gets to attack Megatron again.
Yeah.
And then
I think he literally says me Grimlock loves stupid enemies.
Oh yeah, I got it wrote down in the quotes. It's one of my quotes. But yeah, and then Nergil is just traumatized by all of this. He's
his whole
sad.
Civilization is gone in a day.
Yeah. He's like, oh man, we really messed up here. He's so sad about it, and then he just he cracks. He goes insane, and he's like, I'll destroy the city before I let you destroy the city.
I love
right?
a good villainous manic breakdown.
Yeah,
We're all doomed.
It really it's really one of those comeuppance moments,
yes.
And then I love that the switch is a switch. Not a
switch.
It's a switch.
It's like a switch that you would swat something with.
Right.
But it's not a metal one, and it's really, really detailed.
Yeah. He throws the switch. He says, "I'll throw this switch." You expect him to grab a lever and pull it down
a stick.
to do the self-destruct. No, it's a metal baton that he has to throw into this energy reactor core or whatever to blow up the whole city. Oh, I love Transformers.
I love this episode.
It's so absurd.
And just like the destruction of Subatlantica, it's really, really well animated and detailed, and just seeing the spired city sink into the ocean as like the water is all orange and it's sunset. Autobots are kind of floating in the water, watching it go, remarking about it, and I love this episode, man.
An interesting switch that we have at the end is Optimus is very optimistic about the Subatlanticans being gone for a long time.
Yeah, we don't have Skeptimus Prime.
Yeah, not his usual MO.
But development.
Yeah, maybe it's development, or maybe it's because, he roasted the human rockets in Autobot Spike, so maybe he thinks the same of the Subatlanticans?
Maybe. Well, we do have Skeptimus Spike stepping in.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, man, they'll be back.
Yeah.
I don't know
about
the Decepticons. The Decepticons will be back, so.
Yeah, he's like, I wish we could say the same for Megatron. But yeah. Anyway.
Subatlantica,
this is a
unusual MVP of the...
this is a sleeper episode where you always think... Because I think I mix it up with the one where Sea Spray goes to, like...
Sea Change.
Yeah, and I remember that being kind of an odd episode, so maybe I misconstrue it with this one, but this is a good episode. I love the way...
Fantastic.
Standout, Grimlock, everything he does in this episode is fantastic.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and that's all of them.
That's all of our episodes for this episode of our podcast. We'll move on to our segments after a brief break.
Woo!
And we're back. One thing I'd like to add about Atlantis is that Atlantis will show up several times throughout Transformers, even though it's Subatlantica and may not actually be connected to Atlantis.
Atlantis in various forms shows up throughout Transformers.
Yeah. It'll show up in the Japanese trilogy, or at least something equivalent to it. There's a few other sunken cities, I think in Headmasters and Victory, and
some not
Super
specifically
God Master
referred
Force,
to as Atlantis,
and Armada, and Cybertron. I do think that was an interesting one, that it was a Cybertronian ship.
Yeah.
But anyway. So our first segment.
Best quotes and weird robot lingo.
From the episode Traitor. Yeah, this was like what we were talking about, Starscream and Megatron chiding each other. Where is the courage leadership demands? Starscream says.
Yes, courage, Starscream. What you are most known for.
I mean, that's what I've been saying, is he's not a coward in this early part. It's like late season 2 and other shows that make him into a coward.
True. I love that.
Not even Armada made him a coward.
Yeah.
Where does this coward stuff come from?
It's the generic typecast of him.
I know. Where did it come from?
An electrocell. This is a Cliffjumper and Starscream. Is an electrocell. Come to Papa. Not so fast, Papa. We both had that one down.
Oh, here's the one I mentioned earlier, Megatron. I know this will be difficult for you, Bombshell, but think!
It rings a little bit of Invincible with Omni-Man. Think, Mark!
And then, you wouldn't betray us. You need us. Maybe after you would rob us blind. Bombshell.
Now, where is this?
My cybro polygraph is screaming trap. That's actually Cliffjumper.
Okay.
Not Starscream. I don't know why I put Starscream. I think it's Cliffjumper. But yeah, interesting.
So cyber-polygraph.
Cyber-polygraph.
It allows you to detect traps.
Is that like your spidey sense?
Sure.
Is that your Admiral Akbar organ?
There's a trap!
Anyway.
The Immobilizer. I absolutely loved the delivery on Spike marveling at Hound's hologram and saying, "Wow, it looks just like the real thing!" And Wheeljack's very deadpan, "It's supposed to, Spike." Wheeljack possibly considering whether or not to immobilize Spike for his stupidity.
And it's just, this polarizer is pooped. Wheeljack. And then the interaction between Spike and the cop where it's just, "This isn't a car, it's Bumblebee." And the cop says, "Yeah, let's see it buzz and make honey."
Lovely.
And then Starscream saying, "A Decepticon never retreats." Once again, not a coward.
But he does retreat. A lot. Also, Megatron does too. So.
And the Thundercrackers say, "Well, liquefy that slime, Prime."
Liquefy slime.
I just like the way that kind of
rolls off the tongue.
It's like a backwards alliteration. It's kind of like a rhyme. I don't know. "I'll disconnect your synthesizer, Ratchet," threatening to cut somebody's vocal cords.
I mean, that becomes a recurring theme with Bumblebee. So.
Yeah. But it's just interesting that tells us where their voice comes from.
There's a lot of great Ironhide deliveries.
Ironhide saying, "Maybe." To say maybe. He's just like,
his southern drawl.
Yeah.
Megatron being a baby, going, "The Immobilizer's mine. It's always great seeing him just being very whiny.
I love the way you spelled this out.
Bumblebee whispering in Spike's ear, which is, when Spike says it, is something along the lines of, "Tell Carly you want to go out for an emulsified CO2 with lactic acid." But the sound that he makes when he whispers is "Quarrel and swaddle." It comes out like "Quarrel and swaddle."
And then...
I always remember that.
Yeah. "Oh, Carly, how would you like to go for emulsified CO2 with lactic acid?"
I gotta admit, it is actually pretty smooth.
Then she's just like, "What?"
You what?
Then from the Autobot run, "I need a guinea pigatron."
Guinea pigatron.
Which means that not only do they have the concept of guinea pigs.
There's a place called Guinea.
There's a place called Guinea on Cybertron. I don't know if he's translating it into the closest English equivalent, or if there is literally a creature on Cybertron called a Pigatron that is from a section of Cybertron called Guinea.
And is it Papua New Guinea?
Papua New Guinea.
Or is it just Guinea?
Just Guinea. It's
Cyber New Guinea.
Cyber New Guinea.
Implying there was a Cyber Old Guinea.
Yeah, exactly.
Wild.
So there's a little bit more for your flora and fauna of Cybertron.
There we go.
Right up there with the winged moose.
Winged moose. Boom glitches in your brain garage.
That sounds painful.
Is that the Transformers equivalent of a mind palace, a brain garage?
I think that's just a bad headache.
It just sounds painful.
Boom glitches.
This lovely exchange with Sunstreaker and Ironhide, where he says, "Don't worry, when they made me, they broke the mold. I always said you were moldy."
What kind of insult is that?
God tier comeback.
I always said you were moldy. Also, apparently, according to TF Wiki, Sunstreaker's mold that they used to make the toy actually did break.
Interesting. So he actually broke the mold.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And then Brawn. "Stifle it, Hutfer, or I'll put my footio in your audio." What?
I vividly remember us as kids quoting that back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wheeljack at one point cries out to Cliffjumper, "Cliffjumper, reply!"
Just zeroes in on Cliffjumper for no reason.
Which I imagine is how it feels when somebody tries to text me. Reply!
Yeah. And then Starscream's great quote when Megatron's about to sound the retreat. Starscream just says, "Let me guess, retreat."
Again, them being just absolutely petty to each other.
Yeah. And again, not a coward.
All right.
Not a complete coward.
Not a complete one.
And Atlantis arise. Soundwave absolutely smashing
Roasting Megatron's
with
span of attention.
Yeah, attention span with "Are you interested now?" And then this little interaction was just funny to me, where he's Starscream says, "Waiting is for timid zap mice." Again,
more flora and fauna.
Yeah, we got zap mice are flora and fauna, and Starscream rushing in strangely. And then Megatron saying, "Rushing in blindly is for dolts." And then Nurgle's just like, "You speak wisely."
Just chiming in. It's like
common sense, but also just like, is this a proverb where he comes from?
This
just
is a sub-Atlantic
rushing in
proverb.
blindly is for dolts.
The wise say such things. Starscream saying, "I don't trust that humanoid anchovy."
Yeah, just referring to a earth fish instead of an anchovytron or something. Cyberchovy, I don't know. But he does then later call him a traitorous electrotoad. So there's another flora fauna of Cybertron.
Electrotoads, zap mice, and anchovies.
Yeah.
It wasn't really particularly funny. It was just the way that he said it, but Spike saying, "We can't get through the dome, Bumblebee."
A hardcore line from Starscream: "Ruining Autobots is my life!"
He's a troll.
The comebacks Grimlock has to Megatron are so good. Just the, "Hey, goodbye, Dino Goon. Goodbye, good riddance."
He's mad in this one.
Another flora fauna of Cybertron, treacherous Hydro Weasel. From Starscream.
Hydro Weasel, Electrotoad, Zap Mice.
Yeah.
Grimlock, when the magnetic gun goes off and explodes.
When he breaks he's like, "Hey, now watch what I can do." He says, "Not bad for an Autobot. Now watch what I can do," and breaks the gun.
But that was a funny thing about it blowing up, is that it flashed intensely. It was like a flashbang.
Yeah.
And Grimlock's apparent reaction to being blinded is, "Whoa. Oh."
Yeah, just amused by it. I don't know why. He just makes me think of Conan the Barbarian in this episode, you know. And then when they attack when they take the fight to Sub-Atlantica, Megatron says to Grimlock, "You don't frighten me, you mechanical throwbacks!" And then Grimlock just absolutely roasts him with, "Good, Megatron! We love stupid enemies!" It's so good. Anyway.
Finally getting his comeuppance.
So, next section. Who's your favorite character in this batch of episodes?
Nurgle is close.
Nurgle is good.
But Grimlock kind of steals the show a little bit.
For me, it's hands down Grimlock.
Yeah. Carly was fun, but...
Carly was fun. Mirage is pretty neat.
But
I like the
we do have a soft
scientists.
spot for Grimlock on the show.
Grimlock just steals the cake in this episode.
He steals the cake and...
No, I'm sorry. My favorite guy is random yellow British Optimus car.
Oh yeah, Red Cross Wings guy.
Anyway, next segment. Magic Slidey Hand Tech. Any notable gadgets Transformers pull out of their various body parts?
There's a brief scene where Megatron shoots fighter retardant foam from his arm cannon, the fusion cannon.
Traitor. Yep.
Which is odd.
Return of Shrapnel.
Yes.
Skywarp has a bouncer bomb.
That goes haywire.
Yep.
Ironhide has goop that comes from his liquid nitrogen hand.
Yeah.
It's the same sleeve.
yeah. Does he put his hand into his sleeve and then shoot it?
It pulls in. It does my magic hand slidey tech.
Right.
But it's just the hollow arm.
They have telemeters and cyber polygraphs. Ironhide has a jetpack that comes out of his back.
Yes.
Which is Doesn't he have something else that come out of his back in More Than Meets the Eye? Like a gun or something?
Yes, it's like a over-the-shoulder arm gun thing.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Bronze drill returns.
Yes.
The drill that's on the front of his...
Wheeljack has, like, airjet rocket hands
I
that
thought
he uses
that was...
to fly for a second.
Yeah. And I thought that was... that's Gear's special power.
Yeah. Meg says laser eyes.
Yeah. Ironhide has laser wrists. Devastator has telekinetic vision, apparently.
And finger cannons.
Yeah. He just zaps Cliffjumper and yeets him into a building.
Yeah. And Bumblebee has a rangefinder grid thing that...
Yeah, some sort of navigation tool. Some sort of
Why his shoulder?
Or something.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what that is, and I have no idea if any Bumblebee has come with that as an attachment, any toy, but it would be nice if it did.
Yeah.
All right, next segment. Favorite errors, noteworthy animation, sound design, or lore mistakes.
So, Traitor has, as we previously mentioned, some pretty standout animation.
Yeah, that's not an error, but we'll...
Very well shaded. There's a couple shots that actually made me pause it and look at it and was like, what? That doesn't belong here.
It's so good.
It's supposed to be chunky and blocky, but yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah. It's some of that leftover, like, season 1 designs and animation, I guess. Because there's a few episodes in early season 2 that look like they could be part of season 1.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, Ultrar returns, which is whenever Starscream shows up somewhere that he's not supposed to be.
Yes. I always remember quoting this a lot back and forth, was Shrapnel's line where he says, "It's an ambush, but he doesn't have the vocoder.
Yeah.
So it's just a dude repeating the last word.
We get to hear what the actor actually sounds like when he does Shrapnel's voice without the vocoder. In the Immobilizer, that weird shot of Ironhide in front of Ratchet while they transform, and he just like...
Yeah. They kind of like just descends out of shot.
Like a nesting doll or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird to me. And then Megatron watching Starscream fly for 5 seconds with mouth agape is funny.
It's like, ah.
I counted it. It was like 5 seconds from when Starscream takes off.
Dull surprise.
Autobot Run.
Skywarp changes color. Like, I think he teleports in. He's the color of Thundercracker.
Yeah.
And then in the next shot, he's Starscream.
Yeah. I don't think I got to mention it earlier, but the first time he teleports in with the Transfixatron, I think that's a pretty neat little animation.
Yeah.
Where it's like his momentum when he was flying was conserved.
Yeah.
So he starts from a stop and then just like flips around, you know? I just thought that was a neat animation. But anyway,
there's an inexplicable shockwave.
Yeah. What do you think? Is he actually supposed to be there, or is it just ACOM doing?
I think it's Shock Blast.
Oh yeah, Shock Blast. Actually, there is a brown shockwave that shows up in season 3 episode. So I always thought that was Shock Blast.
Yeah.
From Energon, you know, but his brother from Energon. Anyway.
As with most ACOM episodes, there's numerous typos and.
Yeah, it looked like it said brand pricks instead of Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And then the Autobots are invisible until they transform back into root mode.
Yeah.
Instead of...
Scrapper and Sideswipe, they have the same voice actor, I believe.
Yeah,
so
in some episodes.
Just got jumbled a bunch.
Yeah, and it's funny that it happened twice in an ACOM episode. I'm interested to see if he has his voice in the core also.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Spike Tuck's underwater in Atlantis Arise.
Yeah. Wheeljack has a transparent cover on his chest where it usually isn't. Not a big problem, but I just thought I'd point it out.
There are 2 primes.
Double prime.
Prime trouble.
Yeah. It's a pretty famous error meme when Prime goes to save the Washington Monument, and then there's 2 of him for no reason, because he just walks out of his own skin.
Yeah. He's really coming out of his shell. His pretender shell.
And then?
There's a really dynamic shot of Optimus and Grimlock kind of like meeting in the middle of the battle of Sub-Atlantica that's like super glossy and really detailed.
Is that when Grimlock saves them?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. That's another good quote. Is Optimus is like, and a good example of Grimlock being playful jabs is Optimus says, "Grimlock, I didn't expect to see you here," and Grimlock says, "Oh, you jest.
Yes.
You joke. Dinobots always pull Autobots out of trouble."
Yeah. They really do, honestly.
Yep. Now, let us depart into our next segment.
Let us go.
TF Wiki Go Button Trivia.
What have you brought to the table today?
Okay. This one's pretty obscure, so it'll be pretty quick.
So is mine.
This is a minicon called Blue Max.
Okay.
Blue Max is a member of the Land, Sea, Air minicon team along with Seawave and Cradon.
Cradon. Okay.
Yeah. According to Vector Sigma, or Vector Prime. Now, yeah, apparently he's based on...
I had this little dude.
I had this guy. Now, he's actually a separate character from this, but apparently these characters are based on the Giant Planet minicon team. And they were going to release them with either modifications or repaints or something like that. But apparently never did get released. So he's a non-existent toy.
He is not appearing in this film.
Yes, exactly. Apparently he was named for the war film, The Blue Max.
Oh, okay.
And according to Vector Prime, in one of the dimensions or timelines or whatever, Blue Max was killed in a battle between Galaxy Convoy and Master Megatron. This caused Seawave and Cradon to fall out with each other as they blamed the opposite factions for Blue Max's demise.
That is actually a pretty interesting setup for a character conflict, is one being killed and then them both choosing a side based on that.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so interesting little footnote in the
annals of history.
In the annals of history, in Transformers history. What do you got for us?
I have Earl Norham. He was an artist.
Hi, my name is Earl.
Hi, my name is Earl.
Wasn't that a TV show?
I think so.
Anyway.
Well, there's Earl. Did I do that?
That's Urkel.
Why
is Megatron riding inside a sedan?
This is why I picked this. Earl Norham was an artist who worked on a bunch of different things. He did a lot of comic covers for Savage Sword of Conan, He-Man, Star Wars. He's done a lot, but he also did a few Transformers pieces, and he has a very distinct, it's a very pulp, retro...
kind of airbrush look.
Yeah, very, very good, painterly art style.
These are nice pictures.
He has a strange penchant for drawing a lot of Transformers in vehicle mode with eyes, like a Chevron car. And it's very funny. But
I see it. Oh, that's weird.
I solely chose this based off of the image that they use, which is one cliff jumper with eyes, looking very confused as he drives down the road, being shot at by Megatron, who is in a Chevy sedan, and he is popping up out of the roof, and he fits in this normal human-sized Chevy sedan.
It's almost like the Action Masters.
Yes. So it's just a very surreal image. Go look it up. It's Earl Norham Transformers.
Nice.
Yeah, very appealing, very charming art style.
Yeah, I like it. Even if that's kind of creepy with the human eyes on cliff jumpers.
Yes. All they're missing are uncomfortable teeth on the grill.
All right. And with that, we will transition into our final segment. The cliffhanger question.
Yes, so if you're listening last episode, Frankie asked me, Hayden, a question, and I was going to let that stew and marinate until next time we recorded and answered.
As the kids call it today.
Yes.
So last time I asked Hayden, what is your least favorite Transformer and why? And he has responded with an entire page of notes.
I'll be brief. So, one reason why this question was difficult for me to answer is that, in general, I don't really like finding stuff that I don't like about things. I like finding things that I like about stuff. Especially if there's a lot to love about something. And as I started thinking about this, I realized that a lot of times I have a hard time finding things to gripe with Transformers. Like, genuinely gripe with. I can, be upset at different things, but it's always passing. It's not really, like, visceral hatred or anything like that. And it's probably why I like Transformers so much. Every single cartoon, comic, movie, toy line, whatever of Transformers is a completely different take on the subject. They're always throwing new stuff at the wall. Even the bad ones usually have, like, something in there, like a nugget of something that's pretty good. Or the good ones have, like, something that's not so great. And, all of these, like, anything that the franchise has, like, thrown at the table has generally, it's been something unique. It's tried something new.
Yeah.
And it can be good. It has the right execution or the right approach. And you kind of have to take each adaptation as it is, like, its own thing on its own terms. And more often than not, there's a lot of individual stuff that, like, right off the bat I don't like, but then I wind up coming around on. That being said, there's a crime that Transformers can commit. And it's the crime of not being good and not being bad. It's just being uninteresting. Or almost good. And it's something that has absolutely infuriated me with a lot of things. It's so close to being great, if it's even just fine. But if they went the extra step and then made it great, that would have been awesome. But it's frustrating when there's unrealized potential. And something really bad is when something is forced to be important or at the forefront of something, and then you kind of take a really objective look at it, and there just isn't enough there to support what they're trying to make it.
Yeah.
I am specifically talking about Smokescreen in Transformers Prime.
Okay. I it's like all clicking into place now. All that builds.
There are two things that I can abide and things that I cannot abide with a Transformer. Mm-hmm. As a concept, as a character, as a toy. I can abide an annoying Transformer who's specifically kind of written to be like a kid appeal character. Because it's a kid show.
Yeah.
I can abide a horribly designed Transformer because there's the novelty of, like, look at how ugly this toy is. I can abide a Transformer that has pretty much no resemblance to their namesake's counterpart, either in characterization or looks, because Transformers is an iterative franchise. I can abide a Transformer who gets hyped up and then kind of relegated to the back end of the cast by the show's end, because production crap happens.
You just describe... So you're saying you're a fan of Sideswipe from Armada?
Yeah. Why not? Because he has an interesting arc.
Does he, though?
What I cannot abide
Yeah.
is a Transformer that is a blatant retread of Bayverse-influenced Bumblebee character design without adding anything unique or interesting other than his wheels are in the door wings. He's just Bumblebee, but silver and red and blue. I cannot abide utilizing G1 Smokescreen's likeness and color scheme, who is amazingly not one of the straightforward personalities of, like, oh, he's a fire truck, he fights fires. Oh, he's a paranoid doctor. He's really nuanced, and he does gambling. He goes on high-stakes adventures in the galactic environment. Has a unique skill set. His name is Smokescreen. He uses smokescreens.
Yeah.
And it does absolutely nothing with any of that whatsoever. The closest we get is maybe he uses the phase shifter to phase in between walls, which is cool.
Yeah.
Huh?
Right, could have given that to Bumblebee.
And, I mean, don't get me wrong, he looks fine. He looks okay.
Yeah.
Then they repaint him. And he looks awful. It's blue. It's just blue. Almost every Autobot in that show is blue.
Yeah.
And it's yellow and white.
Yeah.
And not just yellow, like ugly vomit yellow. It somehow makes him less distinct than any of the other cast members. Bumblebee gets a repaint in that show. He looks amazing. He does the black and yellow instead of yellow and black.
His colors,
inverts the color scheme. He's the only other one who gets repainted in that one. He looks like garbage. I can't abide a Transformer that's written to be one of the most plot integral, to the point that I hate using this term because it gets overused, but I dare to use it. A Mary Sue.
Yeah.
One of the most plot integral Transformers of the show, who then absolutely whines about every single situation that is thrown his way, and doesn't have anything beyond the barest minimum character development of, oh, maybe I should be more grateful, when that would be fine anywhere else. Transformers Prime is a show that is known for really well-written and well-realized character arcs. I can't abide a Transformer, this is probably the worst offense, who has the absolute gall to cast Nolan freaking North and then give him the most basic, rote, enthusiastic, young, headstrong character to voice. Nolan North.
What a waste.
Mr. Video Game himself. I am absolutely overreacting on this. And when we get to Transformers Prime, I will have a lot of positive things to say about him. Wow. What a waste.
Wow. I'm sorry I brought this much negativity into our otherwise positive show and darkened your couple weeks since we recorded the last podcast.
Again, I will have a lot of positive things to say about him when we get there.
Yeah.
And it is definitely blown out of proportion. The more I thought about it, the more I realized why I could not stand Smokescreen as a Transformer.
To be fair, it's been a long time since we watched Prime. However, I will agree with you in that 80% of the time when we talk about Prime, I forgot he was in the show.
That's what I'm saying!
And he's like the only new character that shows up for the Autobots in like... Oh no, I'm sorry.
He's supposed to be the surrogate audience character!
Well, I'm sorry. Ultra Magnus shows up in Season 3. And he's interesting because he causes conflict. I'm sorry. Wheeljack shows up in Season 1. And he's interesting because he causes conflict. Yeah. Smokescreen just shows up and threatens to beat up a guy and puts a pizza in somebody's tailpipe.
Okay. Again, I'll have plenty of positive things to say about him when we get there.
It's like
that is one of them.
Yeah. First couple episodes with Smokescreen are good, and then they forget he exists.
And just, man, there's so much potential in Transformers.
Yeah.
For you to not use potential in Transformers.
Yeah, and Smokescreen is such an interesting character in Generation 1. Because, I mean, who writes a gambler as the main character of a kid's show?
That's what I'm saying!
You know? And then in Cybertron, he's the monster hunter.
Exactly!
That's why they call me the Monster Hunter. And then they changed his name to Crosswise for some reason.
For some reason.
And then they paint another guy to look like Smokescreen. I actually have both of those toys.
Yeah, but he's not Smokescreen.
He's one of my favorites.
But he looks like Smokescreen.
Yeah, anyway.
So
what do you got
all in
me?
Or do you Smokescreen from Transformers Prime specifically is my least favorite Transformer, and that is why.
Nice. All right.
For you, to answer next time, what is something Transformers hasn't done yet that you'd like to see in the future?
I can answer this right now.
Ooh.
But you need to
we'll
wait.
Have to wait.
You gotta wait till next episode.
Gotcha.
Yep. All right. Speaking of, let's go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all so much for joining us and listening to our ramblings.
We have so many
and
of
our
them.
Rantings.
Yes.
And our great praise of this fun and silly show.
Of this lighthearted show that does not elicit any strong emotions out of us at all.
Positive or negative.
Exactly.
And we hope that you'll join us again for the next podcast episode where we will also not show any emotion at all. When we review the episodes Day of the Machines, Enter the Night Bird, A Prime Problem, and The Core. I'm seeing a pattern here. We seem to have like groups of 4 episodes where we have one female main character and one episode that's animated by ACOM.
ACOM will rear its ugly head every time.
I think this is the last one with in season 2.
Oh, but we got season 3.
Oh yeah.
And once again, at the time of the recording of these episodes, the Transformers episodes are available on the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel, as well as on DVD and several other streaming services such as Tubi. So please go give them a watch. Our harebrained explanations of them barely do them justice. Please do yourself a favor and go watch them. You might love them as much as we do. So
Yeah. And we'll see you later. Should we have done like a theory of where we think that they actually came from?
Do you have anything?
No. Just observations.
Where do they come from?
I don't know.
Sub-Atlantica, baby.